Hello?
Oh,
Wow,
shit.
the timing on that. The
wow.
timing on that was
Hi, Andy.
incredible, Andy.
Incredible.
Yeah.
We went live.
We went live.
I went 3, 2, 1, and then you said hello, and it was
Yeah.
unbelievable.
So you're hosting this now.
Yeah.
So,
Honestly, it was
Everybody,
Ephraim has arrived.
It was more in sync than most of our claps.
Yeah, it was
I didn't
unbelievable.
have the screen muted, so my brain just exploded
We
there.
didn't. We
for a
hadn't. Hit,
sec.
I literally went 3, 2, 1, hit play, and
No.
then you said hello. And it
Yeah.
was,
But then
No, I
it was
thought that
unmuted, and I heard everyone laughing at that. while I was
Honestly, it sounded like
watching.
a reaction to going live.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
oh,
I thought like the
today the audience
YouTube
can talk
live
back.
made the
God.
sound of the Discord on.
if only.
And
Allie,
we didn't do that.
We didn't. That was not. If that. Yeah, that was perfect.
I
Okay.
got the sick gyro. I'm gonna eat it a little bit.
Hell yeah.
I'll be good though.
Just Mike. You know.
Yeah. No, I'm good. I got it.
Are we good? Are we ready to do this thing? We have
Oh, we're
time
not
that
gonna
is.
clap?
We have to clap.
We are gonna.
Yeah, we should clap.
Oh, shit.
Do we want to do a guessing game of what's in this gyro?
Is it a couch?
Yeah, is it the rest of the couch that's missing?
It is. Yeah, I did put some of the splinters in there.
Yum.
I've got
Bad for your
splinters, red onion, I just pork, and then two. I put 2 screws, but they were long screws.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
That makes that more than a meal. That makes that a meal and a half. Let's clap.
iron.
Are we clap ready?
At 50?
Yeah, 50. You know how when I say it's a wave, you can tell?
Uh-huh.
As
We
you want-
sounded like a bunch of dominoes.
Yeah, it sounded good, but just not good. Let's do 10 also.
Ooh.
That sounded good to me. I may have been just like a split second late, but I think it was fine. All right. Welcome to Friends at the Table, an actual play podcast focused on critical world building, smart characterization, fun interaction between good friends. I am your host, Austin Walker, and joining me today, Alicia Akampora.
Hi.
Where can people find you on Twitter?
I wasn't sure. You can find me at Allie_West on Twitter.
Andy Clare.
Hey, I'm Andy. You can find me on Twitter at Captain Trash, and you can listen to my other show, Emoji Drome, on iTunes or Google Play.
Andrew Lee Swan.
Hey, you can find me on Twitter at Swandre3000.
Art Martinez Tebble.
Hey, you can find me on Twitter at @Tebble. Listen to Song Pod. Who the fuck knows what that's going to be about anymore? But
Yeah, good question.
but it's a fun thing that happens.
Wait, are you done with it?
No, but it's
No, we might
Kanye's
just
bad
be
right
done
now.
with it.
Janine Hawkins.
Oh, did he do it? Did something big happen? that I
We'll
didn't
get
see?
listen
All right.
to the next episode of One Song Pod.
Gotcha.
Janine Hawkins
You can find me at Bleating Heart on Twitter.
and Keith J. Carberry.
Hi, my name is Keith Carberry. You can find me on Twitter at Keith J. Carberry. You can find the Let's Plays that I do at youtube.com/runbutton.
Jack DeKeat is traveling right now, but you can find Jack and everything he does over at Not Quite Real on Twitter, and all of the music for the show at notquitereal.bandcamp.com. You can find me on Twitter at Austin_Walker. You can find the show at Friends_Table, and as always, you can support the show at friends at the table.cash. As always, that gives you access at the $5 level to a bunch of stuff, including episodes of things like Tips of the Table, which is a Q&A podcast that we do, to an entire other campaign called Bluff City, which we have 2 episodes of in the can. I just need to write intros and record those, and then those will come out sometime in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. And then live shows. This I'm marking as a live show because we are really far back on those, and because it's kind of like an episode 0 for Spring and Hieron, which we will be kicking off in the next couple of weeks. So, we should get into it because I just want to give like a high level of what this is, and then start walking through. I think so. So if you started listening to the show around Counterweight, you know that we did Marielda, and then after Marielda, which was a prequel game to our first season, Autumn and Hieron. I think then it was just called Seasons of Hieron. Is that right, Allie?
I think so. Seasons of Hieron Autumn.
Right. We did a kind of clip show. We did like a recap double episode in which Allie re-listened to the entire first season, re-edited some of the audio, and put it back together into a like an easy to listen to 2-episode kind of summary, and then we stitched those together with some like narration from Simul that kind of made that listenable. That took a lot of time. Because you have to like listen to the whole show and mark out. Like, Allie, you could talk to this more than I could, but it seemed like a big deal.
That took some doing. Yeah, it was like figuring out all the clips and then transcribing them so you could write things in between them, and then putting them all together and then like re-editing those scenes. It wasn't great.
Yeah.
Well, it was fine, but
and so we didn't want to do that again. But what we did need to do is have one of those just for us internally. And we felt like, well, why not just do that as a live show? That way, not only are we all on the same page, and I've needed that because there have been things that we've already recorded the first like 2 or 3 episodes, I'd say, of Spring, and there have been a number of times I'm like, wait a second, I have to go to the Wikia. I need to remember this. Or I have to open like notes I haven't opened in 4 years because I don't remember what happened to this character. And so I wanted to just like sit down with everybody and talk through that stuff. I have like 8 questions that I think we'll answer over the course of this, in which that I think we'll answer already. But in case we don't, I wanted to write them down. That way, if at the very end we're like, wait a second, we did not answer this, we can just be like, oh, okay, here's the thing. So, what happened is 1. Number 2 is where and how are all the main characters. Number 3 is what is the heat in the dark. Number 4 is what's up with the stars / the star stuff. 5 is how did Adelaide's curse work. 6 is where did Ordena come from? 7 is who, where, and why is Samethes. And 8 is what are the stakes for Spring in Hieron. Again, I think we're just going to answer these as we go through the recap of everything here. Is there anything I missed, y'all, on the call? Any other questions that are like, oh, here's a big one that doesn't fall into one of these? Or anything you're like, oh, I think I'm supposed to know the answer to this, but I don't.
That's how I feel that way all the time.
Fair.
Seconded.
Fair.
Should we just add Samat to the who, where, why is Samethes?
I think Samat's more simple because of the stuff that happens with Samethes.
Fair.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to say this right now, which is if you're watching this and you've not listened to Hieron, or if you're listening to this, for people who are listening to it in the feed, we streamed this, and so there's some people in chat now. But if you're listening to this or watching this and you've not listened to both Autumn in Hieron, Winter in Hieron, and Marielda, we're going to spoil all of those all the way. We're not spoiling anything coming forward. We're just kind of like setting the ground, kind of like the ground rules for what comes next, and making sure we're all on the same page. And also, I think there are going to be some things where like, well, we've said this, like where did Ordena come from is the thing I think we've said. We have all the pieces of the puzzle on the table, but we never like sat down and said, here is the one place where this is what the thing is that happened. So we're going to do that. That might mean retconning things here or there, or it might mean inventing new things from whole cloth because we think it's interesting. So I wanted to mark this as an episode 0 because this is the place to do that sort of world building stuff. Are we ready to just look? There's one more little thing about this entire presentation I have. Allie?
the only other thing is that like Arel and the study is a thing that like is a
yes, that's a good one. I'm not going to edit
like
this.
it's a proper noun, but
Yes.
isn't.
You're right. That's on. So if I jump to the last of these slides, you'll see I have a whole list of NPCs on slide 60. But you know that'll be a fun
slide
one.
60.
So you're wondering what's between slides 2 and slide 60? Well, it
Oh my
is
God.
every
That's
map
like
we've
4
ever
hours of our
had.
life.
It is like 300 hours, 400 hours of our life. It's every map we've ever had. And so if you are a map maker level backer, I'm just going to give you view access to this once this is over. That way, if you ever want to look at a map from Hieron, instead of having one big post that was like, here are a bunch of images you can't scale up, it's just here they are. All of the garbage ones that were just like thrown together in Roll20, all of the beautiful ones that Janine made, and all the ones that I did in between where I'm really proud of them, but they're kind of still ugly as sin. So
Yeah, I don't know about you guys. Whenever I'm interacting with fans, people are always like, "Where's the map that says Buttopia on
don't
it?"
spoil shit, Art. Come on. No one said that was a whole bit. Here's the original map of Hieron. This is the one that we did in that like weird drawing system that we used for the very first episode. I don't know if y'all remember that.
Oh, I remember that. I drew a little thing.
Yeah, it's you drew the little thing. There's the weird mark of erasure that was literally a mistake.
It's like a pasta.
Wait, what looks like a pasta? Oh,
It's
it does look like a pasta.
Yeah, see?
I hadn't noticed the 3D dimensions of it here. Wild, weird. So somehow I sent this to Janine, and she was like, "Oh, do you mean this thing?" Which is beautiful in compare. It's still wild to me that this thing turned into this thing, and wilder still when you see what we've done to it since then. To Art's point about Botopia, yeah, Janine also sent me this image originally, and I was very confused. And
I want to say that the Pikachu there is by Zoro01 on DeviantArt. Every time we show that, I forget to mention it. I didn't draw that fucking Pikachu.
That's important. I'm going to tell you something.
Pikachu, I googled Fat Pikachu, and the internet gave me that.
I looked at this
Every time this before in my life.
We've done it before.
It's come up.
It's come up.
Right?
I looked at this like 5 times today and didn't see the Pikachu once. It's just it's well camouflaged in my opinion.
I don't remember why I even put it there, to be honest. It might have just been the thing I found on the internet unrelated at that time and was like, I'll put this here, it's funny.
That sounds good. Yeah, that sounds right.
We'll get into it if we ever go east. I mean, it's geographic information.
The grand tour. All right. So, I've done the thing of like marking the directions everybody went and how this all worked, and I'm gonna do my best to move through the first season really quickly, but we should hit the brakes if people are like, wait, what was that about? Or I don't know what that was. So, beginning of this game, y'all get sent from Velis, and by y'all, who is it? It's Lem, Hela, Pharaoh, Hadrian, Phantasmo, right? That's the group that leaves Velis. Not Throndir yet. Leaves Velis, goes to Eventide Isle, or the Isle of Eventide. I forget which one is ours and which one is from the Breath of the Wild.
I think it's Isle of Eventide.
Isle of Eventide is ours. You get off the boat eventually. One of you kills a skeleton. You can't open this door. There are some living chef knives and hats. There is a whole living library, and you encounter a group of soldiers sent by Samat, who are carrying a mask and a crown that, when combined, allow Hadrian and Lem, or is it just Lem?
It's Hadrian and Lem.
Okay. Someone is having a weird audio thing right now.
Could be me. I just said all this stuff
think
about
it's
10
you,
minutes
Keith.
ago.
Yeah.
Sounds like the ocean.
Whoa.
Oh.
I know what
Getting
this is.
Oh.
There we go. I heard it.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. What was I saying? I've lost it. Oh, you meet Samat. Samat says there's a time already. And you go up to the top of this tower, the first of these towers, you were sent there because the water had gotten weird, and what you found was the reason the water had gotten weird is because it was being animated and brought to life by this book, the Book of Life, that animates stuff, and then there was a debate between Phantasmo and Hadrian, and really the whole party, but those are the two major speakers, about whether to put the book back on its pedestal where it was before, or to take it back with you, and y'all decided to take it back with you. Phantasmo, really, a really good point here. In retrospect, Arel really wanted Phantasmo to get that book, let me tell you. You return to Velis. Here's my initial sketch of Velis, aka the Berg. We hadn't named it yet when I did this bad iPad sketch. Shoutouts, or no, it wasn't iPad. Shoutouts to Microsoft Surface for letting me do this bullshit. And yet again, Janine turned it into something viewable. Velis was
This is viewable.
Yeah, it was all right. And the Velis split into the Garden District, which was where kind of the rich people in the city council lived, kind of a garden, or kind of like not just a garden, but like a very green city district with lots of like single-family homes that were all overlooking the sea. The Fish District was kind of the rising craft and merchant district. And then the Sun District was where people lived mostly around the church or the Temple of Samathes. But also all of these little wavy lines were like abandoned homes from pre-erasure. And then there were fields also. This next slide is my favorite. Allie, do you want to explain what this is?
Hold on. Trouble.
Hey.
Problems.
Hi.
Hi.
Contempt.
Contempt. Ghost.
Ghost token.
Putting a ghost on the board.
What's good?
My Audacity settings are wrong because I just set everything up, so it's
Gotcha. Do you want to?
nothing's.
Do you wanna fix
okay,
that?
no,
real
we're
quick?
good now. Yeah, I just fixed it. Hey, do you want to clap again?
Sure.
Or I can just wait till the end.
Do you
Or
wanna,
what's
well, let's do one now, just in case you crash or something,
up? Okay.
or we crash and we lose. Let's do one at 40.
Okay.
This is gonna be great.
It's fantastic.
It feels like season 1 again.
Not as
Listen,
good
I
as
just
this
moved
last
my
one.
home into a different home.
Mhm.
Like just like 5 minutes ago was doing that.
That was recently.
Yeah.
Allie, do you want to explain what's on the screen right now?
Hi, okay, there's a ghost. That was startling. Okay, so I was just like looking through stuff today, and in old Gmail drafts, I have all of the like write-ups that I did from our old website. Bless our old website's heart.
Yeah.
But this is all of our old bio.
I sent in a bio.
I also sent in a bio.
I can see yours, Farrah.
Yours is
Yours
there.
is here.
Oh, okay.
Mine was late, but it existed.
I don't know where it is, and it wasn't in that Gmail draft.
I wish you
So-
had, because it would have been very funny if the only person who didn't
I
have one was
know.
Phantasmo. That would have felt very apropos for the events of winter. So, these are just here. These are. It's fun to look at what people thought their characters were, in terms of what they were focused on, and I think a lot of these end up being pretty on point. But with like one or two things, they're like, oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I asked everybody to write these back during season 1, and they did. And here they are.
Hell of a roll, armed with a mysterious sword. You'll note, sadly, no Ephraim or Adair because, again, season 1. So y'all finished the Isle of Eventide stuff. You went back to Velis. While in Velis, there's two groups. One group is Pharaoh, Hela, and Lem. Gregalos, Greggy, convinces you to go to the mark. Actually, where he convinces you to go is this mark under Rosemarrow. And there was a debate about whether or not to do that over land or over sea. You did it over sea, and we'll get to that in a second. The goal was to go recover another book, which is one of those things that if there was a novel of Hieron, I would probably just go back and that would be like another relic, another artifact, something like that. Because it turns out that other relic ends up being the guitar that Samol gives, or who knows, maybe I wouldn't do that. Maybe Greggy was like, oh, it's probably another book, I guess. Maybe that's what the disciples thought, because it turned out Gregalos was part of a group called the Disciples of Phantasmo, wore that ring with the 3 vertical lines, and the other group, Phantasmo and Hadrian, were ordered to go to the Mark of the Erasure, and that's when Throndir joined them as a scout, because he was familiar with the snow and such between Velis and the Erasure.
I have a lore hand wave if you want for the book guitar
Please.
thing. Someone told him it was full of songs. And he was like, "Oh,
Ooh, must
people
be a
put
book.
songs in books."
Yeah, there you go. Love it.
There you go.
Thank you. Let's talk about Ice Party first. Is that what we were calling it? Ice Party?
That sounds right.
All right, big picture stuff. What I have on maps is like I'm missing one big section that we did not have maps for. Y'all go into the and this is Throndir and Hadrian, and I guess again Nick isn't here, right? So the two of you get sent out there to go to the Mark of the Erasure. You meet the goblins. You meet Mikosh, right? Who is the goblin, like elder sage dude, who is like, oh yeah, the rest of the goblins had their word stolen from them. You investigate that and meet the word eaters, right? And then the map on the screen currently is the weird cave that y'all set up like an ambush for the word eaters in, and then the bottom half of it is where you fought the fake Kendrali, and was that fake Kendrali? Like the word
Yeah,
eater
it was a word eater who had taken his body,
Right.
and then like Kendrali's actual body was like in the corner.
Right. Like, actually, this is not a living Kendrali over here. This is a dead corpse Kendrali.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I really love the posing on all of this stuff. It just looks like Throndir and Hadrian are on benches sitting while Phantasmo lectures Kendrali, the Word Eater. Extremely good. Then there was the whole section on Neek where Throndir, y'all all get captured by Throndir's like people, the Snow Elves, and break out. And there's some like familial drama. You shoot your father with an arrow that gets
Try to
him
get my dad high.
Yeah, classic stuff. And you bust out and you free the goblins who are all like, "Yo, we're gonna fucking set this place on fire later," right?
Excuse me, you left out a very important part.
What did I leave out?
The Snow Elves were very rude to Hadrian.
They were. I mean, fair.
Hadrian was being a reasonable person,
Yeah.
and they were super rude about. And I don't know. Maybe that comes back. Maybe it doesn't. But
You remember.
I
Great, good. Art, your connection has been weird, just so you know.
that's just been my life now. I don't know what it is.
What
but
happened?
I don't know. Like honestly, like 40% of the time when I open a website, they're like connection interrupted.
Great, good.
Seems bad.
That's bad. That's a thing that they should. For what it's worth, my connection is also being very weird right now. So hopefully we don't get disconnected. If we do, apologies. We'll be back soon after. All right, keep it moving. Get through Anik, and you wind up here at Samat's Fallen Tower. There might be stuff on this that you've never seen before, because I just took a screenshot today of the Roll20 map, and that includes stuff that's the GM side stuff, so like the Rupture place, the Collapsed place, the Residential and Slaves level, the Armory, Windows and Lights, question mark? I don't know why that was hidden on the GM level. The city, an actual set of city streets I don't think you ever went to, but you look down on it. Or you maybe you just saw, because you went to the place that was like, I mean, we should talk about what this is, right? You get here, you meet Sunder Havilton, you meet Uklan Tell. They are here investigating stuff. Y'all are here trying to find like whatever the artifact here is. What all happens?
Throndir gets that weird thing,
Glowy
from
orb.
the mall
orb.
that's
Right, from the
downstairs. Yeah.
mage mall. Right, so the thing that ends up happening here is like each of these broken. So this is a tower that was standing vertically and then fell, and is now like it's now on the northwestern side is like the top of the tower, and the southeast side is like the bottom of the tower, and each. There had been this weird rupture in space and time for a reason we have not explained, or for reasons that we've, I guess, gestured at or like been indirectly spoken to. But each of the broken bits took you to like another potential world, a world where, for instance, Ordena took over this tower. That's why there was the like alternate Hela that Phantasmo erased from existence, and that whole other alternate timeline and world. What else? The Disciples of Phantasmo district was the district with all the mages. This is, I think, the first time that we see that, I mean, up until this point, Hadrian believes that there is Samathes and had forgotten the name of Samathes, right?
No, Hadrian had it back at this point.
Okay, but you had briefly lost it, had thought it was Samat, got here, got it back, but then got here, and they're the five temples of the five, like the Samtheon, as it were. Samathes, Samat, Severia, Severia was at the time we were still calling Severia, Samanta, Samantine, who is now Galenica, and Samol. And the five temples is the first time we see that stuff. And the story here was just like, y'all were getting jumped by the Paladin. You also learn what the Paladin are. You meet Tabard, who is a soldier on behalf of Samat, who is looking for something here also. Other key stuff here. Throndir, Hadrian, do either of you remember other big picture stuff here? Before we get to the very end of it.
Hadrian's turning into a rock at this point.
Oh yeah, you had the rock hand.
Oh right, you start to become a paladin, right? They like one of them touches you and starts to convert you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, yeah, much different thing then about how that worked. Any other stuff?
Didn't like Uklan get hurt or get sick or something?
Uklan gets sick, and also just gets kidnapped. I think Uklan gets
That's right.
sick or gets hurt during the collapse of one of the Ordenin district, and then is like, oh, I'm just going to stay back here in the camp, which y'all moved into the throne room, the bottom throne room, and then got kidnapped. And then the rest of that sequence ends up being y'all trying to rescue Uklan. And in fact, it ends in this confrontation in a big room with a mirror, where Samat shows up, flanked by Royal Guard, and Phantasmo tries to charm him, which goes exactly as well as you might expect, convincing both of them that they're old friends. And then Hadrian, you get killed by Tabard, but Samat rescues you, saves you, and heals switches it so that he's the one who's been killed. Right, yes. On the condition that you, like, consider some stuff, basically. Consider who you're serving, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's a big mirror. People in chat are like, that's a big mirror. Like, yeah, And you escape because Uklantel breaks the mirror using this elaborate pattern magic that he's been doing since the beginning of this sequence. Meanwhile, in the ocean, boat party. Y'all got on a boat with Calhoun, which was good. And I have something very important to say, which is I looked everywhere I could to find the actual picture of the birds attacking when the panther split. I am so sure it's out there on the internet somewhere or on someone's hard drive, maybe even my own hard drive. In fact, let me just do it quick. I typed...
Can I just say this boat picture is extremely Inca people?
Yeah, it is.
A CDI game. To be
People should watch the Giant Bomb playthrough of Inca people. And so I just need to admit that this is a reproduction of how things were. This is the right chicken picture. If you go on Roll20 and search for birds or chickens, this is what comes up. This is about what it looked like. Y'all got jumped by zombie pirates. And those zombie pirates included a bird that could split into many birds.
And those were his many birds.
Those were the many birds. Other important stuff. I mean, that all ends with this. Two important things. One, Lem meets Emmanuel.
Yes.
Two, Calhoun is captured. And the pirate captain Brandish, who had been Hela's enemy from a love letter at the start of the game, was like, hey, like, make a choice. If you give us Calhoun, we'll let you live. Otherwise, we're going to kill you all, right? And we had a really long conversation about what evil was, both on that recording and then after. Then what? Is there any other big stuff that happened there? Am I missing anything else about that boat fight?
Those are the big ones, I think.
Okay. And yeah, you can blame Keith for the zombies because Keith reminded us that Brandish's neck had been cut, and that means, like, wait, could they all, are they undead? And the answer was yes.
Blame is, I think, harsh. That was
praise Keith.
There we go. I like that one.
And then y'all went to Naker. And I still have that map. I still have. And that was a town of people who were undead. Y'all learned about their culture. You learned that the old god of death, Tristero, protected it from whatever the erasure was. You met various people here, and at one point you got into a fight with Brandish and Brandish's crew. This is the first time y'all fought ghosts, I think, and Hela, you get killed, right? During this?
Yeah, that's the spot.
That's the spot. And what happens?
I succeed that role, I guess.
Okay.
I'm able to talk with the god of death, I guess,
Yeah.
and bargain for my life.
Yeah, and the deal is
The deal was to be like his right hand,
mm-hmm.
and then to kill his son.
Right.
And Hela's like, sure, I'll kill your son.
I'll go kill your son, right. Yeah, I think even as phrased, it was such that I think it was like, you're going to be my right hand. And in retrospect, I've listened back to that clip a bunch, and I have no idea if he's lying to you about being his right hand, or if I changed my mind about what was supposed to happen with the Triste line after that promise was made, you know?
I think it was the other way around.
What do you mean?
I think that I had been like playing it like Hella didn't like remember that part and then reminded you about it.
Right,
And then you were
right.
like, oh, right. Yeah, that's
I
right.
mean, that makes sense. That makes perfect. Wait, which part? The right hand part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I probably just forgot during prep and was like, oh, it's interesting if what happens is the reason that why does Tristero want Calhoun to die? Oh, okay, because XYZ. Trying to think. And then yeah, Emmanuel also shows up. Keith, you're making
Hey, sorry,
weird noises
that was
again.
me fixing it.
Okay.
It's fixed.
Okay. Trying to think at this point. Kevin in the chat says, "Could any of the party actually die at this point? Don't they all have the curse of Nacre?" No. This is before they spent a full night here. There's lots of Emmanuel meeting up with Lem in the streets and being like, "Don't stay here. You have to go immediately," and not explaining why, except that to say, once you stay in Nacre, you can't for a night. You can't leave. You can never leave Nacre once you're there for a day. Which is the curse, which we will, I guess, return to in a moment. What else? God, go ahead.
I feel like the important thing to note there is like we got into that trouble because Lem had like wandered off to hang out with Emmanuel, and then we were like, "What are you doing?"
Yes, because listen, sometimes you got to flirt on a balcony at a hotel that the Death God used to stay at, like you do.
It is what it is.
Listen, at least that's the only time anyone's ever gotten everyone else in trouble by flirting.
God. Other important stuff here. Sword is singing the name Tristero as you landed. I also just went back and realized the sword first started talking to you in the tower, actually, as the first time it said your name. And it was in reaction to the Book of Life, which is interesting. Other stuff here. What else here? Calhoun, the Calhoun sequence. Hella, you kill Calhoun. Y'all get arrested. Y'all get arrested after.
Wait, she what?
Yeah.
Wait, but hold on, but we were there to save him. What?
Yeah, I know. It's weird. And choked him to death 3 times. And
Three? Wait, she did it 3 times?
yeah, well, see, in Nacre, you have a physical body, then you can be like a a zombie or a skeleton, a robot, like a human robot, a skeleton, and then a ghost form. It's like death, undeath, and then like spectral. And then after that, if you decide to die or if some sort of magic kills you, then you can die. And in this case, Hella had that magic. Killed Calhoun, gets double arrested. You'd already been arrested at that point. Jack writes...
We went from arrested to detained, or the other way around.
Detained to arrested. Yeah, I definitely think that. Then you get taken to the courthouse, and there's a whole sequence of Lem and Pharaoh prepping to be lawyers and then being lawyers. If I recall, Pharaoh, you were Hella's defense attorney, and Lem was the prosecution. And the whole system that I have, that's a system I should put up as a pusher update or something, is the whole court system. I haven't looked at that in years. And here's the fantastic jury of your peers, which I don't know why Gandalf is there. I don't remember who that's supposed to be. Oh, I do remember. That's the dude who was like the librarian. What's that dude's name?
Yeah, began with a J, I think.
Did it start with a J?
I think so.
Jonathan.
Gerard? Was that a person?
No, Gerard's a different person. We'll get to her.
Oh,
Someone in the chat said Ventaro. That
Ventaro.
sounds right.
Yeah, Ventaro Doce.
Okay.
Ventaro Doce. Yes.
Oh, it ends with J.
No.
Doce.
Doce. Yeah. Great.
Wait, hold on.
What's up?
I don't see Gandalf in here.
What?
That's the Harry Potter guy. That's Dumbledore.
Okay, listen.
Oh,
Sure.
shit, it is.
Where are we looking?
Those incredibly different men.
Oh, I do see. Yeah.
Those very, very easy to tell apart wizard men.
God.
And there is 2 Dumbledores. Do you know which Dumbledore that is? I think that's the original Dumbledore.
So
No,
that's
that's the second
straight Dumbledore, not gay
That's
Dumbledore.
Irish Dumbledore.
None of the movie Dumbledores are gay Dumbledore. They're very clear
Oh
on
my
that.
God. We're moving
Is
on.
that true? Is that part of the? Is that?
I can't be a fake fan of Harry Potter because I'm not a fan of Harry Potter.
Well, try being 5 years old when those came out.
I would love to have been. It seemed like a fun time until
whatever, I'm over it.
now. You know what? Now,
Yeah.
after the shit from this week, I think I'm good. I think I'm incredibly good.
I mean, it's been like a solid 2 years of being very aware of how bad.
God.
It is.
So
I hear Harry's got a black grandpa.
God. Oh,
Dang.
fuck. Okay, we have to keep moving because my head is going up. We're going to keep moving.
Also played by Johnny Depp.
Oh, yeah, great.
Johnny Depp in blackface. You're gonna love it.
Oh, my God. Somehow, you win this court
J.K.
case.
Rowling had 100% control of the cast.
I'm aware. Yeah, You win this court case. Lem is held in contempt because it's clear that Lem was throwing it. A lot of the argument had to do, part of the argument at least had to do with the fact that Pharaoh, you had discovered that Ordena was coming in ships to attack Naker. Lem goes to say goodbye or save Emmanuel, while Pharaoh and Hela go to confront Adelaide. Adelaide explains her plan, which is that she sort of explains her goal. Her goal is she does not want there to be a world in which death is involuntary. That she believes that the world should be one in which final true death should be a decision that people make of their own mind, of their own will. And the way that she tries to enable that world is when you kill her, the sword sends up that signal, right? Is that right, Hela? Do you remember this? The beacon, like the big bright light that goes up?
No.
Okay,
No, I
well-
only remember hearing Calhoun.
No, that's fair. You know what?
Distracted.
Valid.
Was that the second or third time?
The last time.
The last, third.
New archives. Fourth. It was the fourth time that she'd killed him already, and what she heard was him leaving. Was him almost forgiving you? Is that right?
Sorta. Who knows? Does it matter?
Not
That's a big
particularly.
ask, by the way.
I forgot about the water clock. Yeah, there's a water clock. That's fair. Adelaide's plan is basically get people to arrive at Naker and then spread the curse of Naker or the rules of Naker. The rules of Naker are such that if you are inside of Naker, whoever is the god of death controls your life and death. That used to be true of all of Hieron, but when Tristero died, when things started to fall apart post Marielda, Tristero pulled all of his power into just Naker and just hung out in Naker and protected people from the outside world and made Naker kind of disappear from the minds and the kind of history of everybody. That actually happens before the end of Marielda. That happens mid Marielda, and Tristero's reach is, or whoever is in the throne of death, right? Whoever's in Tristero's seat, their reach at that point was contained to Naker, but to become a citizen of Naker, the way that magic worked was if you spent a day inside of Naker and then went somewhere else, that new place also became part of the kind of reign of Tristero. And so her plan was to ascend to that realm and also to kind of spark some sort of campaign that would move throughout all of Hieron. Naker does not have that military power. Ordena does, so she leans in as hard as she can once she knows that Ordena is coming. And Ordena goes there, obviously spends nights there because they're like, whoa, look at all this new technology, and then eventually becomes the primary spreaders of Adelaide's kind of the territory that Adelaide controls. I think that is the most brief and clear way I can describe what the curse is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is there any remaining questions about it? I think that's it. Okay. What's up next? All right, so that's the first half. That is timeline wise. That is the arc of that first party until they get to the Rosemero detective game the Velis detective game. They go back to Velis. You'll see I've drawn this big yellow loopy thing because it's like you magically went back to Velis. You didn't go over land. So whenever you see yellow, that's because like some weird magic shit is happening here. You back to Velis. I just took this screenshot of the actual Velis map at the very end of the detective game. You can see there's all these like G1, G4 district things. Y'all went from place to place and investigated the death of... Was it Greg's death? Was it Gorgallo's death? Anyone? Did I lose connection?
No.
No, I just don't remember whose death it was.
I think it was his.
Why
Or...
down?
What?
Yeah, I was so distracted.
Wait, say that again?
These are all Scrabble tiles representing us.
Yeah.
But the L is upside down.
Ask Jack.
There weren't enough T's.
Yeah, I don't know why there wasn't that. Why the L's upside
Lem
down.
doesn't begin with a T.
Look, whatever happened to Tlem is really none of our...
What-
Yeah, so it's the day of High Sun. What's up?
Wasn't it someone else who died, and then like during the investigation we find Greg dead?
That's what I thought too. I remember who killed the person. I remember. Bless you.
Thank you.
I don't think it's important. We can just move on.
No.
I think
Was there prelate? Was the word prelate involved?
The word prelate becomes involved, but it's not from.
Not from the jump.
Yeah, the prelate is also key to everything that happened here.
Okay, chat says Greg was in the field.
Oh, it was Greg. Okay, so Greg is the one who's killed. Thank you, chat. You do a bunch of investigation. I'm not gonna walk through either of these investigations beat by beat because they go for a while. What are the big findings of this investigation? Does anyone remember?
Start of the Disciples of Phantasmo.
Good, big one.
Yeah.
Who were
It beats me.
great.
I know
they're,
You know now who they were.
Phantasmo's friend?
They're Phantasma's friends, right? Yeah. But like we've since learned that they were for Arel, right? That Arel is the head of the disciples.
Right.
And that they have been at this point. I think you learned that I think I can give the actual full answer here. Gorgallos is a member of the Disciples of Phantasmo, which itself is a descendant of the Disciples of Samat, both of which are magical groups of researchers. The Disciples of Samat, that symbol, Lem recognizes during this episode, or during the first episode with Gorgallos, and says, oh, this is tied to an ancient group of researchers who worked with time, who studied the past, present, and the future. That's why it's 3 vertical lines of different heights. That's what the symbol is of. The Gorgallos was working with them, which means that they were trying to get the Book of Life and trying to figure out a way to beat the heat and the dark. Who kills Gorgallos? Hadrian.
Did not.
No, who? I'm asking you. Who killed Gorgallos?
You're like implying things that aren't true.
I'm saying
and
you're the
this
one
must
who
be
maybe
informational.
knows the most about who killed Gorgallos.
Yeah, I do.
Uh-huh.
This is one that I know the answer to.
Chat does. Shout out to chat for being like, oh yeah, obviously. It was
I don't. Yeah, it was Jericho.
It was Jericho alum, who was ordered to do it by, as Janine noted, the prelate Lucius,
Yeah.
That sounds right.
because he was evil. He was doing evil magic shit, right? Which now we know is that the disciples of Phantasma were working with Arel to try to stop the heat in the dark, and that Lucius and much of the church is actually part of the Church of the Dark Sun, more than the sort of surface level Church of Samartes that Hadrian knows. And so that is what the cause of that murder is like oh, this is two factions who are like, this is like on the periphery of these two factions butting heads.
It's like this bishop is secretly in an apocalyptic cult.
Yes, exactly. And this bishop learns that this like librarian or whatever is secretly in an anti-apocalyptic cult that also has its own fucking problems.
Right.
Yeah.
Arel is not the best dude.
Arel is not the best dude at all. All right. What else? Well, people are just realizing now that Phantasmo is an anagram for Samat fan. Yeah, it's very good. It's super good. Sometimes things just work out. Lucius gets killed. Oh, this is also where we introduce the Golden Lance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we get, yeah, that's like Victoria Lake. Nope, Gloria, Dr. Gloria Lake, and Victoria Solomon.
Yeah, you got it.
Whew, thank you, Throndir, who later on will become one.
That's my new mom's.
That's them. We also get some Ordenin, some like first hints of Ordenin politicking, but it's not that important. Any other big stuff from the holiday special?
Oh, before holiday special, I don't know if this is ever going to come back, but the charm, Phantasmal casting charm on Samat and failing.
Yes, I mentioned that when we were on that map screen. Yeah. They both believe that they are friends to each other. They've always been friends to each other, which is magic, huh? All right. I don't think there's any other big stuff here. I don't think, right? Season ends. We move on to Marielda. So this is Archives. Oh, Archives end up with the book. That's an important thing. Book of Life ends up with with Elgash. Elgashor.
Oh.
Rhymes with Morbash. What else? Naker Curse is beginning to spread. We hit that. We talked about that. Yeah, Metapar is there, but like Metapar hasn't really shown. She showed up in the Rosemarrow special, but like I don't really know that I need to hit Metapar. There was one other. There's a sequence in the Naker side finale in which Emmanuel ends up with a book of poetry that is given to him by Lem. That's a thing that we'll come back to in a minute. Marielda happens. Check out this dope Quiet Year map we drew. Boy, what's the quick and dirty on Marielda? Janine, since you helped do the final map, and also since you were in that Quiet Year game, I'm going to put this on Janine and Andy because they weren't in the first season.
Oh boy.
Can you summarize just the Quiet Year part of Marielda?
A lot of the stuff that stands out actually got turned into things that I don't understand.
Sure.
Because the Quiet Year is so like, it's so much of like building a prototype almost of this space, and then it became this whole other.
But I mean, just like the highlights of what happened in the Quiet Year. What's the setup?
So there's a bunch of people who are like Samathes' people. And they're on this sort of island that is broken off from the main land, ostensibly to protect them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think it's ostensibly is probably the right word.
Yeah. But they also kind of have to they are building themselves up here because all of the things that they had are sort of gone, right? The things they're used to. And this is all happening with Samathes in the background across this. The water is like molten metal, magma.
Yeah, it's like it's fire water. It's like
you can't cross it.
Right. It's not. I don't think it was all the way to magma, but it was like weird glowy golden water.
You need like special metal boats to do anything.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes. And those are under control
Samathes,
mostly of Samathes, right?
Yeah. So Samathes is like occasionally doing things that are kind of helpful, but also kind of a problem. The big example would be the rocks full of fish.
Yeah.
Which people needed food.
Can I tell you a secret about
fishing
those?
Boats and whatever. Yes, please do.
I always imagined Primo made those, but I never wanted to say it because the idea of Samathes just being an indifferent asshole who did it was very
there's
funny.
like a logic to it of it is to me a very like God thing to do more than a
Right.
Primo thing to do.
Right.
Like I think Primo, my understanding of Primo is that Primo would maybe like piece together why this would be a problem for people.
Right.
But
Well,
the
and then
idea of like
yes, and then
what are things that the people know can fall from the sky? How can I make this useful without thinking about like, oh, their houses aren't a volcano. I live in a volcano, so if someone throws a rock at a volcano, nothing happens.
right.
If someone throws a rock at a thatched roof, it is
Bad. Yeah.
Even
it
if it's
feels
full of
so.
dinner.
It always felt so desperate. Of like, we gotta fucking feed people immediately. And Sam Mathies' whole thing is just like this. Sam Mathies is the one, especially at this point in time, who is not the we have to try person, and much more the like, oh yeah, I have to keep order person. But I'm actually happy to have that continue to be a question mark.
Also,
Because-
rocks are like if you can't throw you can throw a rock farther than you can throw a fish, aerodynamically, right?
Probably.
And like mass and whatever.
Probably.
Checks out.
Maybe
I know
In
for
a, in a
fact that I
vacuum,
can
it'd be
throw
the same. but-
equally as far as I can throw a rock.
I think it depends on the fish.
I think it depends on the rock.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Fair.
What if the rock was shaped like a fish?
Oh.
Oh shit.
Coming this fall,
That's
What type
Dwayne
of
Johnson
fish
is
it still depends on the fish.
fair.
my
I
favorite
remember
New
some of the,
England
like-
monument, natural monument, is the rock-shaped fish. Wait, fish-shaped rock.
I remember some of the beats, but I don't remember what order they go in. Is a big thing.
Yeah,
Like I remember
fair.
there's a bridge that gets built, and the elves cross over and
Yes.
sort of live in that sort of western chunk.
Yeah. The like
There's
snowy
the
part.
forest that people disappear into, and they think it's like cursed and magic and stuff, like a magic forest, and then they start finding people, and they're like all distorted.
Yeah.
But and I think it's the people that they lost, but then they find that those people are just dead actually.
Right.
So it's like weird. It's like they're like in wood and you have to cut them out. There were people with nice pants that I don't remember what happened with them, but I think they turned into some sort of
They had
work gang.
They actually had bad pants. They had like these heavy black wool pants, the black slacks. They had nice shirts. They were.
Oh, they switched it up.
Yeah, they
'Cause
switched it up.
I remember in Quiet Year it was they had fancy pants, and then wasn't it like they put a ban
You're
on
right.
the
They
pants?
put a
being
ban on the fancy
yeah,
pants.
yeah.
Yeah, they were the fancy pants gang
So then
or
they
whatever,
switched
right?
to the shirts.
Yeah, totally.
There was a
Um,
whole war with magicians, right?
There was that happened at a tower that got turned into Malquin Park here, that we would learn eventually was Charter, Castile, and what's the other dude's name?
Oh god.
Malquin?
No, well, Malquin was on the other side of that duel.
And
Was it Cartwright? Was it?
I think it was Cartwright,
That sounds right. It's a ghost, Mr. Ghost.
the dude who like cursed her the fuck out.
Oh, it was. It was Bolster. It was Bolster. Bolster Valentine. Yes, yes, yes.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, chat, again. I was like, I have not listened to Marialda since it came out, so
The Cobbins
yes, big
rose
ones,
up from the
important
ground and
ones.
started building like houses out of the volcanic rock kind of stuff in
Yes.
Slow Point, but then encroaching into Emberborough.
Yep.
And then they took over the university for a bit, right? And then got like violently shut down.
Shut down. Yeah, they like were trying to help people and teach people stuff, and then
Mm-hmm.
people were like, "No, fuck off." There was some child labor in Iris Parish in the factories.
Sorry.
Thank you, Janine. There was
A sea dinosaur.
a sea dinosaur, which turns out to be
Purple
Samuel.
friend.
I can here's the thing I'll say. Samuel talked about eating in one of the first episodes of Spring, so find out more then. Tamsin was an orphan in Red House, in like the Red House district or whatever, who ended up later becoming a mercenary and then later becoming a vampire in Claret Holiday, became Claret Holiday, who also then later becomes the founder of the Golden Lance on the mainland, right? What else? No more Vor jokes in the chat, please.
That big black, like, was it like an iceberg or a hole?
It was a
thought
hole.
there was, like, a
it's
big-
it's a hole all the way down.
Was it like a big weird rock thing that turned into a hole? Because I remember a big weird rock thing.
The big
out in
weird
the water.
rock thing. I think it was a big weird rock thing, and then became a big black hole.
Yeah, that's what I
Right.
thought.
And then the other big rock thing is the big rock at the north that had water coming out of it.
Yes, that's one of my favorite little icons that I drew for the map. I loved it so much that I saved it separately. I just saw it today. It was like, oh, that was a nice rock I drew.
It was, in fact. Let's advance and show that. Look at that good rock that has the what was it? The blank of Malguin. The what was it? Was it Malguin's chosen? Was it Malguin's?
Wait, what?
What was this? There was like a cult of Malguin in Marielda.
Oh, no idea.
Because that was like the beginning of the different sun symbol. Where it was like the ring plus the extra little symbol, the extra little rays.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is Janine's Marielda map. Malguin's Faithful, thank you, chat. And it's a good map. You can see some key things, including Yellow House, including everything. So we're just gonna move through this pretty quick. I did not do the like ... going from mission to mission thing here, but the first one was the train mission. Train Day, happy Train Day. The second one was at Memoriam College, which was up at where number 2 is. The third one wasn't a mission at all. It was the War in Azaleas, downtime episode with the war against the Fontmen. And then the fourth one was at Samanthesis Forge. And I do have a bunch of maps for that. So I don't have Train Day map because we ended up reusing the Train Day map. The 6, Andy? Do you want to talk to me about the big picture events of just Marielda as we kind of punch through these?
Let's see. So we started with. So I guess we should go over the characters first, actually, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
So we had 6 were like a group of like knowledge thieves. Like our whole thing was that we wanted to spread knowledge because Samanthesis was hoarding it. If I'm remembering correctly, right?
Yes.
We wanted to help spread information and education.
Yeah, Samanthesis at this point is especially depicted as a god who wants to fix everything not for himself, but he'll fix something for you. He'll build you a bridge, but he'll never teach you how to build a bridge.
Yeah. So we had Castile, who was Ali's character, who was a paladin who was like sentient, and God, there's a lot going on with every single one of these characters. I'm not sure if we want to get into it chronologically or not.
I think the
Hitchcock,
big picture stuff. Yeah.
Do we talk about like the big thing with him here?
Yeah, we are all the way in spoilers.
Yeah. So there's 2 Hitchcocks. I know that Jack likes to leave that unspoiled, so
totally. I think at this point we're so deep in, you know.
For sure. So we've got they run the dancing studio and dueling school that is both like one of them is the cover business for the 6, I guess, the dancing studio, and then the other is like I guess just a side hustle.
Just a side hustle, just a little bit of dueling, you know.
I respect it. We had Siege, who is the big strong man who was working on his boat. I love Siege, but I don't really know how to describe him better than that.
That's
great. I forgot to mention that Castile is also was secretly Charter Castile, who knew Malguin and stuff. That's important. And then we have Aubrey, who's my little nerd.
Important, good nerd.
Is a alchemist, and as we went on, eventually became very close to Samot. That was actually a big thing. Was that each group, each player character, or each player basically had a different deity type relationship. Castile had a relationship with Malguin. Hitchcock sort of had visions from Sam Matthews, didn't he? If I'm remembering right.
I think that's basically the case, right?
Yeah.
Hitchcock was definitely the one that was the weirdest because it's like Siege is very clear, like met Sam all in the woods, right? And Castile. But Malquin was like the Castile one, 100%. So then, yeah, I'd say Sam Matthews is the one that, yes, especially once one of the Hitchcocks gets conked on the head and has just like a really bad experience at Memoriam, and sees the heat in the dark and all of that stuff. Yeah, totally. And yeah, that's true. Edmund's the Hitchcock's mother also knew the family, because of the story that they'd been told of the mother wandering into Semmel's home. Which, I mean, I guess that's the big thing with Marialda, was the background story of it is there's this war between Samot and Samathes, right? It's a civil war between the two. They were clearly together. I mean, they were clearly aligned at the start of Marialda and then broke up, or I guess it wasn't clear that they broke up. They were clearly aligned in some way and then had a civil war. What's revealed is they in fact were married, and they split over the way that they wanted to handle the death of Simol, and the kind of end of the world, the impending end of the world, and that is what that huge conflict was about. And then the six end up being kind of tossed into it, right? A deeply messy divorce.
Oh god, that's a bit of an understatement, honestly.
Yeah.
Still, right. So, do we want to go over? We
don't need to go over
briefly summarize the heist.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I have emoji here, so ready for you, and
I love
the
emoji
expert.
Yeah. Oh, this is a good one. Good combo. So the first heist. God, I really have to think back for this one. It was the day that, like, wasn't it? It was train day, obviously.
It was train day.
It, like, it just got running that day, or was it like yeah?
Yeah.
And we were trying to reroute it, if I'm remembering correctly. Right? Or no, that was a later one. That was the later one. Yes. Oh my god. We did too much stuff with trains that season.
A lot of trains.
I'm also very out of it right now.
We were trying to steal the plates.
Yes.
Right.
Because they, like, rewrote themselves and we're always on, like, a different line. So we were like, if we can get what the master is, we can sell it to people.
Yeah, we wanted to figure out how he did his reconfiguration stuff with the city. Right.
Yeah. Totally.
Was the university next, or was that?
Yes, it was.
Okay, yeah.
See here. Here is books and ghost, two other good emoji, and that I actually have all the maps for, because that was a big one-page, super big map, in which your mission was to get in to the rector and college of the last living spirits in memoriam for their service awarded the grace and wisdom of our protector, originality alive, or memoriam college.
I believe we got in by both staging a protest and then faking our way as students or something along those lines.
No, we got half of it right.
I know we had the protest go in, and then we got into a dinner.
You just climbed. This is like the wildest shit.
We just went in.
I was like, oh yeah, y'all are going to do this protest. And then I thought it would be like, that's a distraction, so they won't know that you're not really students, and you'll walk in the front. No, you're like, and then we're going to climb these trees and jump on the balcony and just walk into the dinner, which is here on floor 2, which is fantastic.
The thing about the six is that you think they're going to go one way, and then they go the other. Mm-hmm. You know, it's they keep you on your toes, and that's why they're, the greatest heisters to ever exist in fiction or nonfiction.
Totally. And your mission here is to recover this book, Mortal Liminality, on the space between life and death, which is down in the basement of the... Actually, wait, no, that's the other book. Wait, what is that book? I thought that was the book you were looking for. I think that is the book you're looking for. Why is it up there and not in the basement? Maybe it just was always up there, and then the basement was a... Because the basement's here, which...
No, wasn't there a book that Hitchcock stole from the nun?
From Sabinia, yeah, from the rectory. Maybe that's the right book then. Or maybe was that 2 different books? Because the other book that's here is the Book of Life, which the Yellow House was there for. I'm pretty sure that book is the book that you were there for. Katie wants to know how Malcolm got in the gauntlet. I don't know, play to find out what happens. I know the answer to it, but...
God.
Play to find out what happens. I don't know. Look into it. Yeah, so you're being sent there to get this book. This is where the reveal around Castile starts to happen, right? Because you meet the Valentine. Is that here or is that after this?
Yeah, this is here. So Castile goes to the basement, meets the ghost of her former partner that
Right.
she had set up and had Malgun kill.
Right.
And then meets Malgun, who's like, hey, what's up? I know who you are. And she's like, someone who knows who I am.
Right.
Let's hang out.
Perfect. Yeah. Right. The book in the basement ended up just being the Book of Life, not the other book. Gotcha. Perfect. Malgun was there. There was you can see here, anytime that there's like gray text, that's text that only I could see as the GM that y'all couldn't see. Silas was in the reading room down there at some point, and also there was just a painting of the City of Light that was just very expensive. If y'all wanted to get rich, you could have broken into the reading room and gotten that super expensive painting. That's all that is. And then that crystal, the Samethes crystal, would have been, I think, an earlier way to get more info on who they were, which you ended up getting through Aubrey, like flashback drug trip things, right?
Yeah, the like dream liquid I made.
Totally.
I can't remember the name of.
I also forget what it is.
Yeah, it was cool though.
And yeah, this is where Silas knocks out Hitchcock at the operating theater. Oh, you know what? You got the Black Slacks to protest. That's why there are all these pictures of black pants on this floor 1.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We also saw the early version of the Blade in the Dark here, didn't we?
Yes, that is. I want to say Mr. Calendar.
The weird knife.
Yeah, it's the weird knife that grows when it's used. And yeah, people are in the chat are noting that yes, you did get that crystal, and you use that crystal to that is part of how Aubrey goes down that road.
Right. Yes.
And you end up leaving. There's a huge fight. There's a fire. That's when the Black Slacks storm the building. And you manage to just sneak out the back door, down one Hitchcock. One Hitchcock having been badly wounded at that point, right? Yeah, it was either Master Latitude or Mr. Calendar. I forget which one had the knife. It is super unimportant because they have since been killed or died from old age, or not a big thing here. The Void Nun died. The Void Nun was killed by the Blade in the Dark. Castile ends up with the Blade in the Dark. No, is that true? Who has it at that point?
Malgun.
Siege did.
Siege did, right. I remembered someone had to give it to Malwyn, but I couldn't remember who had it leaving this. Yeah, Siege, you had it, which, wild, right?
I killed which Lance Noble and took a second gun.
Yeah, that's true. That was really good.
I mean, it's important because that gun shows up later.
Yeah, it is. And then the... Oh, did I lose? Yeah, here we go. The War in Azaleas is the third thing that happened, which was the you hit a war clock with the Font Men. I forget exactly if that was just the group, the Font Men, who were people who kind of enforced Samethes' system of information control. If that was just them hitting the "this means you're at war with them" thing, or if that was like a downtime roll, or both. But
I think it was a downtime.
I know it happened during downtime, but I don't remember if it was like an entanglement or if it was.
I think it was entanglement.
Okay. Boy, that went away. There was a mall. There was a guy who sold shoes.
Mm-hmm.
There was, what else was there? Debate over whether or not azaleas and rhododendrons are the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They are. I learned.
Aubrey got drunk.
Yeah.
Aubrey got drunk.
That would be the same thing. Why are they called two different things?
Listen, Keith, I just don't know. Right, Rebecca was one of the Fontmen. Yeah, the...
Oh, I think...
Is the order here off?
Before the college?
Maybe it was.
Someone mentioned... I think it was because I believe this is when the famous "Have you ever fought a ghost" line comes from. And we do very much fight ghosts in the college, right?
You do fight ghosts in the college.
This is where we establish that the Hitchcocks are afraid of ghosts and carry anti-ghost charms.
You're right. So this is before that then. Yes. Okay. That makes sense.
Everything I'm seeing is that azaleas and rhododendrons here are different things.
So maybe it was a different thing than azaleas. Maybe it was chrysanthemum. No.
Chrysanthemums are gold, right?
The Spruce.com says that I think they might basically be. I'm going to close this page. You know, here we go. Blame the name and confusion on Linnaeus in 1753. Thank you to Linnaeus. Thank you. Bye. We're closing it and moving on. You're right. War in Azaleas was before that. You're totally right. Because Malwyn isn't around for this in any way. This is before Caroline joined. You know, before any of the like extended crew joins the Six. I guess that's not true. Zach Track and Peg are probably with the Six by now, right? So whatever. The point is, y'all are a bunch of thieves who steal information and who wind up really just pushing it until you team up with Malwyn, and through a series of manipulations, bad rolls, and miscommunications, Malwyn becomes convinced that the way to save the world effectively is to kill his father. I guess we say, Malwyn was Samat and Samathes' son, and is convinced that he has to, because of a bad roll, and because you had the blade to begin with, and because of all that other stuff that rolls up to it, because he's being manipulated already by the mages, is convinced he has to kill Samathes with the blade in the dark. And so we do.
Yeah, she was just like, this is a cool knife. There was a bunch of other people in his ear.
That's true. Yes, all of the mages. Yes, absolutely. That is the Fester Finleys and the I was just looking at these names the other day because I was just looking at everyone who was killed by the blade in the dark. But it was those folks, right? It was that group of mages who was using the Mask of Samat to whisper in Malwyn's ear as if it were Samat, but it was not Samat.
Yeah.
You come here. There's you go to the forge. You go to Samathes' castle during High Sunday. Castle built into a volcano. What else? What are the big events here besides the end result?
Bird people
are there. They're naked. That's cool.
Giving Samat champagne.
True.
Kendrali's there. You
can see there's a bunch of weird symbols here. Those were staircases that for some reason Roll20 lost access to. I don't know why, but those were staircases or doors or something. I think they were just staircases, and somehow they got turned into this bad image file. So, oh well. Someone says, what is that yellow circle in Samat's room? Good question. Don't remember. Was it Samathes? Was that at some point?
Was that the elevator teleporter thing we used? I don't remember if it was an elevator or if it was a.
I don't remember at all.
But I remember there was some sort of thing we took to get to there, and I'm pretty sure that was the entrance in. But I could be completely wrong.
In the end, Siege, you defend. Because of what Samuel has told you, decide to defend Samathes as the rest of the party effectively tries to get Malwyn to get the killing blow. Oh, you know what? It isn't even about the sword, right? It's about the thing that the rule or the plan is kill Samathes. The belief is there is some sort of artifact that will activate when Samathes is killed that will save the world effectively. That will grant power to Malwyn, and with that power, Malwyn will be able to fix Sam'el and save everybody. That does not happen. Instead, Samathes is pulled in a bunch of different directions. Is stored inside of is trapped inside of the Blade in the Dark. And Malwyn is magically transformed into Samathes 2, into, whatever you want to do, the Dark Sun, into a Cool Ranch, depending on which part of the fandom you're in. Is locked in an artifact that no one knew what it was, and that artifact is a sort of, we kind of described it at one point as being like a prison or a tomb. In Winter, he describes it as being pinned to the bottom of Hieron. He's effectively at the very lowest level of Hieron, which I guess we'll have to get into also in a minute. That's a question that should have been here: is what the fuck is a strata and a lamina? And it is is trapped down there, and is stuck as like a dark Samathes. And the reason that he's there is, or the thing that's happened is, by doing that artifact has stripped away the special power that all of the gods had, or that those 5 gods had, called reconfiguration, that let them remake the world, that let them kind of rewrite history, kind of load a save game and try again. And the thing we end up learning in Winter is when you do that, the past save game is not erased. It's just like, it's like you put a new layer of paper on top of it. You put a new book on top of it, and that old book is still there in some part, right? And maybe it gets torn up a little bit. Maybe the heat and dark eats it a little bit. But that is there. I guess that's the other big thing in Marialda. Marialda introduces the heat and the dark. Marialda says, there is this thing called the heat and the dark. We are on this landmass named Hieron that is made of Samol, that is floating in nothing, in a blaze of nothing. And that blaze is getting closer and closer, or is beginning to eat away at the structure of the world. Is there anything else? Yeah, Photoshop layers also works. But it only... The thing that it doesn't work is that's only... The thing in Photoshop layers is you have different stuff on the layers. The thing in Strata and Lamina is much of it is the same inside of any given lamina, inside of any given like layer. You're just kind of like being like, oh well, we want to change this one little bit. It's like I want to choose the other ending. I want to get the UFO ending this time in Silent Hill 2, and so I want to do that instead of going the other direction. But I'm going to save everything else we did.
Silent Hills have a UFO ending. Go on.
Which one?
All of them do.
Do they? Do they all have the UFO ending? Thank you.
Yeah.
I was looking for the help.
The
there.
second one, I think, is the famous one. It's called the dog, right? Am I getting this right? Yeah.
1, 2, and 3 all have it.
Right, totally. Mary Madness says, so do the people realize they've been covered over? Yeah, totally. The people underground completely understand the system and live it every day, and move between them freely and understand the paths, and like. That was like an important thing with figuring out what Hieron's version of dwarves was, is that, the Warvers need to just get this. I'm not going to send the party down there and be like, you figured out what this is. You were only here for 2 weeks and you understand it, but these people who've been living here for who knows how long, forever, for as long as there's been a Hieron, don't get it at all. They just like live in this space that's vaguely multidimensional and like they get it completely. What else? Anything else here? I think that's the big Marialda stuff. Where does everybody end up? Siege stays for a while. What else? Castile. Samat invades. Samat invades and takes over Marialda. That's renames it the City of First Light. Castile stays on as like just working with Samat, right?
Yeah, she goes back working with Samat, who she had like worked for before.
And Aubrey, you stay on as like Primo, the new Primo.
I believe it was like Samat's version of Primo.
Right.
Was the idea there.
And Siege becomes a cop. I forgot. Like a super cop.
And then the Hitchcocks go back to. They finally find the map.
They find the map, and
they never. Yeah.
They find the map, and we didn't talk about the map. They find a map, and then they go back to Samwell's place. So nice work. And they end up living a full and healthy life there. So shout outs to the Hitchcocks.
The map is like their main motivation for doing all of this. It was like their mother's map to their house that they had lost.
They had been raised by their father. They never knew their mom. Blah 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 blah. Anyway, that is Marialda. I don't know what happens to dogs. The dogs lived happy lives. I'm not gonna fucking ever fuck with happy dog life. You know. Time passes. That is what this emoji means. And we are back, and it is finally winter. Let me say, let's take like a 5-minute break and come right back. Does that sound good?
Okay. Yeah.
Sure. I'm gonna go back to that nice clock emoji. There we go. All right. And then what if I play the winter music? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Let's do that. I have to find it first. There it is. All right. We will be right back. we are back. Hi. Hello again. Y'all ready to talk about winter? Big picture. Okay.
Hell yeah.
So, presumably, between the end of autumn and the beginning of winter, the group of people that wind up in Rosemarrow on a rooftop together, and that is Pharaoh, Lem, Ephraim, and Phantasmo, go from Velis to Rosemarrow. Or I guess Ephraim comes from the east, right? Goes to Rosemarrow from the east to join a growing Church of Samathes in Rosemarrow that has grown, especially since Ephraim showed up, partially because we left out a big thing, which is during the Word Eater stuff, Winter Party, Ice Party sent a giant snowstorm into Velis and into the northwest of Hieron in general, causing an endless cycle of snowstorms. And so Ephraim's rad immolator power meant that was a really easy and powerful way. In general, sun gods, liked during the winter. You got to pray for that sun to come back. But especially when also you have a prince who can set things on fire at will, right? Yeah, that was Ice Party's fault. Yes, 100%. 100% that was Ice Party's fault.
It's in the name.
Yeah, right there, Ice Party. Meanwhile, the newly joined up map maker and medicine seller, Adair, along with Hadrian, Hela, and Throndir, go south to Old Man's Chin and Twinbrook, where they are escorting Saul Cider Brew.
Sid's his brother,
Sid's
right?
his cousin, right?
Yeah.
Cousin.
Sid Half-Off is his cousin. Saul Cider
Right.
Brew. You're escorting that cart, which in my mind, that's why it takes longer to get there, right? Is you have to have this whole cart, you get to Twinbrook, and when you get to Twinbrook, you learn that the bridge is collapsed, which sucks. I think that's like the big picture stuff. Here's Twinbrook. You roll up to Twinbrook. What happens? Forest Party. Is that what you called? Was that what we called y'all? Forest Party? Forest Party and Mountain Party, right?
So,
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about Twinbrook and Old Man's Chin.
There were bug people,
That is how it's kicked off.
and there was conflict about the river.
there was a dam that they built in Twinbrook because people kept falling in the water and getting swept under the ice and swept away and dying.
Yes.
Is my understanding. And they built a dam in this river, and that fucked up the situation for the moths, and the weavers and stuff. The moths tried to rob us. They
That
tried
is
to
true.
steal the water off the cart.
Yes.
I think was a thing.
I am now 19 or 20 episodes into this season on a re-listen, and so this part is at the very least a little bit more in my foremind than anything else we just did, thankfully. So yeah, so far so good.
So the weavers are plant people who need the water to be good at being plant people.
Yeah.
Especially the Weaver King, who like heals people up and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's also Red Jack and his rowdy children and his horse, who came to Twinbrook to do some like shenanigans, and then we end up like talking to them about the problem, right?
Okay, so there's a bit in which the Weavers are trying to steal the cart again, and I think you end up just meeting Red Jack in the woods because there's a point at which there's a point at which Frond, one of the moths who has become undead, is just trying to destroy the dam with like a sword by himself and just like hitting it over and over again. And you convince Frond to walk into the woods, and I think you finally start talking to Red Jack in the woods, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right, Red Jack. But yeah, okay, Red Jack does just steal the cart. I may have missed that part in the re-listen. I should actually show people Twinbrook directly because it's hideous. The Greasy Snifter, everyone's favorite place where the Lard Wolf is. The Church of Samathes, the Primping Badger, the Regency Inn and Tavern. This fucking place is like a bunch of carts, a church, and 3 different taverns.
I mean, look, a tavern of the period is gonna of the period. You know what I mean? It's gonna fulfill many different needs. You get your dinner there. You also have lodging for visitors.
You want
know,
some options, yeah.
Meetings.
Some small towns in my time, and they got bars.
Yeah. Yeah. The Twin Brook is split, or is in the middle of two different rivers. The Cloud River, which is the one that had been dammed up, and then what had been the Rose River, which has since run dry. And now it is just this big canyon. And the bridge crossing the Rose River had been broken. And so, yeah.
And P.S. Ordena is coming, right? Like, we were also... I think aware of that because they were going to fix that bridge or something.
Yeah, you become aware of that when you get to Twin Brook because there is a group of Shishir, which are these new kind of Ordenan witch hunters in Twin Brook ahead of the arrival of the Impetus, which is the kind of new Ordenan war machine. One of the big stakes of winter was Ordena had become this giant militaristic power that was ready to point itself somewhere on the continent and begin to grow. It had already had one foothold in Nacre, and it was looking at both Velis and Rosemarrow as potential places to put the rest of its army. And so you knew that you were kind of stuck here until Ordena fixed the bridge, and you could continue on to Rosemarrow with the cart that you were protecting to get some money ahead of your journey to the south to the icon that the boat party was originally headed to so many years ago. Y'all meet the moths. You meet Rosette, who's like the moth queen. You meet, like you said, Red Jack and the Weaver King, and you decide to help them instead of helping the Ordenans. Or at least most of you do. Hella, you don't? You're not so keen on it, right?
I waffle and try to do some non-violent assistance, and then eventually come around.
Yeah, and take
over. If
over
there's two things that go together really well, it's Hella and non-violence.
Yeah,
I think it's Hella and waffles.
Attempt to get some water does not go well. Attempt to train some people, I think,
that goes
only went sort of well, and then in the middle of the night, it's finally like, fuck this. This sucks, man.
You kill like a double general or whatever named Rapuro Kurodon, and you learn that you can control using his plate, his like the special piece of stone he has, his detachment of Anchor, which are new model Paladin that the Ordenans have learned how to build through a combination of Nacre technology and some actual Paladin that they found in the Isle of Eventide behind a door that Hela could not open during the first game. I compare him to the Dr. General, but he's not actually a Dr. General. I compare him to somebody who would insist you call him Dr. General, but I don't believe he's actually... Anyway, I just listened to this. What were you saying, Pharaoh?
I just wanted to know who could possibly open that door. Come on.
A good question.
We tried pretty hard.
If Hela couldn't, come on.
Who could? It's true.
Exactly.
I think it's probably because they had the Nacre technology that they probably figured out how to like a winch or like a jack, like boop boop boop, and it opened. I don't know.
Was that Ephraim?
Who
said that they could?
I probably could have. Yeah.
Fire, you know.
Yeah, I burnt through a very big door. You'll get to it.
It's true.
I can handle any fucking door.
It's true. Trying to think of other important Twin Brook stuff or any other important stuff here. This is the first time that we've seen like Ordena misunderstanding what the fuck the curse is and the fact that they are the big people spreading it. That it is not a disease. That it is about the expansion of Nacre and those who've stayed on Nacre land. And also the fact that they just don't care about what it is and they're just kind of like arbitrary fascists, basically, like that are drawing lines. We find it
everywhere we go, therefore we should take over everywhere we go.
Exactly. This is also...
Hadrian lays a big guilt trip on Hela.
True. That's a great scene. People should go back and just listen to that fucking scene. It's incredible. There's honestly a lot of good speeches from everybody during this sequence, or a lot of good exchanges during this whole thing. Hadrian, you pray to God a whole bunch. Your ring falls off at one point. Instead of being answered by the sun goes away. And Samat is the person who's primarily talking to you at this point, because things get cold and the cape, the cloak of Samat that he gave you when he resurrected you kind of pull it tighter around you. At one point, a wolf literally shows up and is like, hey, to me a wolf. And at that point, by then, it's also the last wolf alive, because something that happens early on in the season on the other side of the game is that Pharaoh, you miss a roll when you turn into a wolf, and in that moment, all of the other wolves on Hieron disappear. Which means that Samad is literally the last wolf alive.
I think it's important to note that Hadrian does not figure out the multiple gods talking to him thing until like the last 10 minutes of the season.
That's correct. Yeah, 100%. Other important stuff on Twinbrook. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's super... Y'all win that fight. Beat the shit out of Ordenna. Celebrate. Oh, Rosette on Adair's wish flies Adair to Rosemarrow to meet with Chancellor Lutz, who is an acquaintance of Adair's. Is that fair to say?
I think it was.
Y'all get soup.
I don't remember the reasoning I gave for them being acquaintances. It might have just been that like. It was because she had been to Rosemarrow before and been like, "Hey, I'll make you a map. It'll increase local trade, local commerce."
Yeah.
He was like, "Cool. Let me show you around." And then so we went to a diner, and I asked for some reinforcements, and he did send some.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
He
cool.
does. In fact, he sends Balian Wythe, who is his on again, off again partner, his like adventurous companion. They once ran away from Rosemarrow together and were hunted by enemies, and sends his like personal bodyguard detachment, and they are actually on the map. They help stop some bullshit. Let me go back to that map 1 second. Boop. They're the ones over here with the bow on the other side of the river. They show up and like take out one extra detachment of the anchor. I don't know why you're on this map twice, Adair, but I think it's very funny that you're on this map twice. Other important stuff. I think that might be it. I think that might be the end of the Twinbrook stuff, basically. If someone else remembers something. Oh, Throndir, you meet the leader of the animals.
Oh, yeah.
A squirrel named Carrot. He's like, before you can convince the bears to fight, you got to convince the squirrels. And you do. And Carrot helps. Saul gets killed by the Weavers, but the curse has happened. And so Saul shows up again later.
But I got a nice pocket watch out of it. So
you did. That's true. The Weavers did give you that dope pocket watch. You should have sold that for money.
No, I made good use. I'm happy with how I've used that pocket watch.
Okay.
The thing we didn't mention is why it's good that Saul was killed, which was Adair like tried to make a deal with him to convince people to take the dam out, and he's like, "Well, I forget what the exact thing was, but he was like, I'm going to be some sort of commerce guy, and it'll be great." And it didn't we'll just give them buckets of water sometimes or some shit like that. It was like, no, that was not.
He fucking sucks.
That's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you thinking of the Dying Light 2E3 demo?
Yeah, that's it. The Dying Light 2E3 demo. That's 100% it. Yeah, and I should also note one of my favorite characters from last season, or from Winter, Nick with a G, the goblin businessman who showed up to help do the hard pitch on getting rid of the dam to the regent of this place, along with Throndir and Hadrian. Nick the Goblin, shout-outs, MVP, really helped things along. Saul was killed. He came back, and when he came back, he was undead. I just listened to that episode like 2 days ago, because Janina's like, "What? How is he back? The Weaver said that we took care of him," and they did, but the curse. So
I thought I'd been scammed.
Yeah.
It's fine.
All right. Meanwhile, in Rosemarrow, which is here, we did some heisting. Still feeling that Marialda buzz. Still want to do some heists. You want to talk to me about the new old museum?
Yeah.
So
Andy and I are gonna tell you what happened at the same time. All right, 3, 2, 1.
I fell off a roof.
There is this.
Okay.
How long are we gonna do this bit for?
I don't know.
I'll do it for 5 minutes.
I thought we were going to end it right there.
You can start with falling off the roof.
I mean, like, that is kind of important, is that Phantasmo and I almost immediately got separated from the group and captured by gnolls, and then Lem and Pharaoh got high, I think.
That's
all
stuff.
on accident.
By accident, right? Like, you guys touched the plant that Morbash had given Lem.
No.
thing. Oh no, that was before.
You get high on purpose, 100%. Oh, early you're talking about on the roof. Yeah,
I'm talking about like early on. I remember there being some
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
negative thing that happened because of that plant.
Yes.
Like,
So Lem was trying to take care of the plant, and I said, "Dude, I know plants. Come on, I can help you keep this thing alive." And instead, it made us high.
And that made you like confused or gave you some other debility.
Yeah.
Y'all each had. I mean, everybody had love letters coming into this season, which we did not go over just on the other side of the party. Maybe I'll wrap back around to those. But that was like, yes, Lem had to take care of this special plant for Morbosh that was only growing in Velis, and he had the last one that was still alive. Pharaoh, you had learned that a special type or like an insect had gone missing. This is ahead of the wolf roll. So the first thing that went missing last year was an insect you realized had gone missing from the world. Ephraim, what was yours? Oh, it was about your relationship with the church and with Rosemary. You made the roll that meant that Rosemary was way into Samathes. Yeah. That's what you did. And Phantasmo, I think, was looking into the disciples. Yes, Phantasmo was the one whose role and like love letter stuff ended up being tied to Isaac Addleton, who was this mage who was caught up with some Lenny Lenova bullshit.
And so part of that bullshit was that we went to the new old museum.
Yeah.
And the entire museum, not only did we learn, so we learned that the halflings had like stolen pretty much all of their culture and land and technology from the Knolls.
Yeah.
And that the museum wasn't just filled with like fakes. It was just the whole thing was like a magic scam. Like it was like a bunch of sticks that they turned into the first fork.
Yeah.
Like through magic or whatever. And so we burned it down. Did we burn it down?
There was
not
fire.
On purpose.
There was. There were moments
down.
when Ephraim definitely set some shit on fire on purpose. And I want to say Phantasma may have also done that. There was later, it would be revealed that the actual fire that consumed the entire museum and made it weird, which shows up in an episode description, was the arrival of one of the stars. After y'all left, a star crashed there, and did much more damage than even your fucking fire had started. But yeah, you did not intentionally burn it down. Yeah, you were there. You meet Lenny Lenova, who was there announcing his candidacy for chancellorship. For becoming
that guy's a fucking
chancellor.
Shithead.
Yeah, he sucks a lot. Except for one thing. Here he is, right here, as this halfling on a skateboard, and that part was really funny and good.
Yeah, that just makes him a poser.
Oh, true.
Lenny Lenova's never even listened to NoFX. He doesn't know how to skateboard.
He has a skateboard, but he just walks. He just carries it around the mall.
No, bro, I love Nofix. There's G-Dragon, there's some Knolls, there's the whole clique. You know they had to do it to you. Anything else before that? Because then you end up going downstairs into this long hallway that connects to this vault. There are some paladin, or there are some non-paladin. There are just some guards who Lem very horribly fucks up. Plays this song that forces one of them to kill the other one, which is doubly bad because of the Adelaide's curse, which is bad. Yeah, Corey and Button. Yeah, it's like heartbreaking. And then Mother Glory chases after y'all, and there's an entire sequence with Mother Glory charging you, and then there's like some anchor that are gonna blow up. There are just Shishir nearby, but Ephraim ends up cutting a hole in the door in the vault, getting people in, and then either Pharaoh or Lem convinces Mother Glory to like chill and come inside. That y'all are on the same team.
I believe that it was me.
I believe it was Lem outside and then you inside. But I might be wrong.
Maybe it was both of us.
Yeah, and then Mother Glory, who's the leader of the Knolls, does come inside. Y'all meet Blake Bromley, who is a thief who had already broken into the vault and was looking to rob the place and had heard that there was something special secret down here. And they were cool to like hang out with y'all. And y'all passed some time by breaking out the halfling pipe leaf and really putting that to work while reading the first contract, which was effectively the Constitution of Rosemarrow and the secret Constitution of Rosemarrow that proved that the thing that you know now as Rosemary was originally a place called the Meeting House, or built around this place called the Meeting House, and it was built on the kind of collaboration. It was Knoll land, and then they made contracts with the halflings, who were these, like, at the time they kind of flopped places, right? The halflings were a group of people who lived in the woods nearby, and who were still very technologically reliant on they're like a hunter-gatherer society, and were like hyper aggressive, and were pillaging the knolls and stuff. And bit by bit, through the use of contracts and through the use of kind of controlling messaging, and also taking advantage of people's perceptions of the knolls as being big and scary beasts, and the halflings being small and quaint, and specifically through the construction of this sort of like very British folk culture, this very like quaint, old-timey, things were always better in the good old days, and so we're going to keep things that way. Really manipulated history and culture to make them this kind of center of Rosemary history, and you figured all that out by finding this document, the true version of this document. And then y'all went further down. I don't think I've missed anything so far, right?
No, not at all.
No.
Yeah. Yes, Ice Cream Jones says they white peopled. Yeah. Love to take things from brown folks and then say brown folks are scary. You go into the Meeting House, which is underneath the new old museum, and you find some inscriptions there. You find the more history of Rosalind Marrow Eater, who had shown up briefly on Marielda, and you wind up in this kind of big floating building that is looking down on like a shadow grayscale version of Rosemary, right? Does that also, I love that we had regular G-Dragon above, and down here we have like anime G-Dragon.
Oh yeah.
That's good. What all happens here?
Okay. A lot.
Yeah.
I find a cool sword.
You do.
Coincidentally, the sun is gone after that.
Yeah, weird. Huh.
Coincidentally.
Yeah.
We fought off these, like, the feral...
You also learn what that blade is. You also learn where the blade there comes from. That blade came from... It is a sliver of the sun that Rosalind Marrow Eater stole from Samarthes's forge on the day he died, which at the time was me indirectly teasing that it was the blade portion, not the hilt, but the blade portion. There's only the blade here that had been turned into this crescent shape. The blade portion of the sword that Samarthes had made for Malguin, and had, said, if you'd kill me with this sword, things would have been different. Like, Samarthes had made Malguin this special sword to kill him with, basically. Classic dad move. And yeah, so you get the blade portion, but don't have the hilt. The hilt is somewhere else, right?
Do we want to go around the table real quick and say when our fathers gave us the sword that they said?
How old were you? Yeah.
I was 8.
Wow, that's young. That
is young. I heard that was young.
Did you get the hilt then, too, or just the blade?
I got the hilt when I was 15.
Okay, that's good, though. You have, 7 years to kind of sit with the blade and be like, all right, got to get ready. Fuckdads.com.
I can't really do anything with it because if I pick it up, there's no way to pick it up without
getting rid of the sun.
It's just blade.
Right, the sun goes away. Yeah, totally. Right, totally. Apparently audio got bad. I don't know. Did the audio get bad?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I don't.
My chat just disappeared, so that's great. That's a
Mine
good
did
sign.
too. Oh,
really?
It's back.
Weird.
No, I guess maybe just for one person.
Okay. That's good. Other stuff that happened here. The the ghoulish versions of these old halflings show up, who are living here in the kind of in-between zone forever.
Trying to remember, there was something that happened when they attacked people to the people that they hurt. I think I might be misremembering here, but I feel like something happened that started changing people into because there were statues.
Oops, sorry, that was me. I don't know if there were statues. I know there were engravings of stuff.
Yeah, I'm probably just misremembering here. What the big thing is, I think we all got out, and like that's kind of when Mother Glory and Blake kind of became like more friendly with the group a little bit, because
you fought through all this together. Yeah.
I found a cool thing that has nothing to do with the sun disappearing.
Totally. There was a combat. There was a moment where Pharaoh saves Lem's life, as Mary in the chat is reminding us. It was a hard fight. Like it was, definitely one of those ones where I was like, "Fuck, are they gonna die on this bullshit nothing fight that I didn't mean to be bad?" But ended up doing all right there, leaving with the crescent blade. What else?
I do remember that was a tough fight. Was that not supposed to have been a tough fight?
It's supposed to be like it's the final fight of this arc, So it was supposed to be like hard, but it ended up being one of those ones where it was like, "Oi, this is a little harder than it should have been," Can
we zoom in on the sun thing a little bit?
Sure, totally.
Ephraim takes the sword.
Yes, at the same time that Hadrian does this prayer, right?
Okay.
And that is a mystery. I wish Jack was here because he would know how to frame this well. But there are things that are like, yeah, and those two things happen at the same time.
Okay.
And it's like, and those two things happen at the same time. Is that why that happens? I don't know. Like that the vagueness around that I think is important. That like Hadrian fails that prayer at the same time. But I can totally tell you, like, there are, in my mind and all my notes, which is important. Let me get my Lamina notes up. 1 second. Drive. That's where I keep my notes. I guess this is also a point where we can talk about strata and lamina, because this is the first time that you leave the top floor of Hieron, right? Stratum 0. So, Hieron is a layer cake, and it has a ton of these strata and lamina. Strata are these giant, big, are the biggest layer. The note that I have here is that each strata is made up of multiple lamina, right? So like, I guess you can talk about it as like shelves, and on each shelf there's a bunch of books, but they're like vertical shelves. Does that make sense? It's like,
on my bookshelf, I have books that are more like
vertical than
space economical to stack instead of in a row.
All right, so then yeah, let's. You know what? Here, I got exactly what I want to do. Boom! Check this shit out. This is a little program I like to call Microsoft Paint.
You know, books I have that are like that. I have all my Star Wars Obi-Wan books from when I was a kid, and I stack those vertically because they're really thin, but there's a ton of them.
Right,
saves a lot of space just stacking them up.
Top.
So Hieron is stacked. Star Wars Obi-Wan books,
100%. And y'all have been up here on Stratum 0, right? And Stratum 0 has 2 lamina. It has Lamina 0. That's why everyone underground calls y'all zeros, which is like the Hieron we know and love, ?
Keith loves it.
But Pharaoh, less so. Boom. All right. But then there's also, inside of that top stratum, this like transitional strata. Actually, I don't want to do that. I want to do like a tiny line here. Here we go. Right? There's like a little line here. And then there's another one, which is Lamina 1, which is a threshold space, which is the space that y'all go down to. This is where there is crescent or the meeting house, right? The meeting, is that what I call it? The meeting house, the meeting room, the meeting house. And that is what connects to the next stratum. Next, then there's like another big stratum 2 or stratum 1. And that is from immediately before Samothrace's death. That is the world in which, that is like, all of that is when Tristero goes away, right? Or goes to Nacre. All that stuff is happening there. And you can look down on that world from that threshold space at the meeting house, and from the threshold space of like the bridge that the forest party ends up going to at some point. All of that stuff is on Lamina 1. That is like looking down on the next stratum below. These continue. What? Go ahead. Keep. Yeah. Go ahead and ask. This.
What is okay? So like, what happened? So you're saying it's like stacked, and so we go down to Lamina 1, and there's stuff there.
There's
like,
stuff
we can see it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of bad. It's bad down there.
Well, what that stuff is the previous Hierons that have existed. So let's say you go all the way to the bottom. You go to the bottom lamina. That is like nothing, right? There's no sun. There is no death. The only thing that exists there, the only thing that can even be there is like Samol, Samathes, the Sams, basically. Things that are immortal, things that like are not just mortal beings. Mm-hmm. Above that is like, I mean, I can just say this is like above the very bottom peak. Right? Again, you can almost think about Hieron as being a mountain, right? Or like an iceberg, I guess, right? Think about it as being an iceberg. The very bottom is where like only the Sams can go. One above that is like the Empire of Death. That is when death gets invented, right? One above that is when like the first physicality starts to exist. One above that is when like the world is remaking itself and is like it starts to have some degree of order. And bit by bit, this is the gods using reconfiguration to kind of load an old save and push things forward a different way. The stratum are the big changes. The stratum are like the big branches. It's like when you've decided. I had a really good breakdown of this over in the Discord that I'm just gonna find and maybe read. If you're in the Discord, it's Dwarf Fortress is what to search for because that was my big breakdown because that was.
I guess my question was gonna be like if what happens to the other branches?
They all exist. You don't get to erase anything. They all exist. They get partially fucked up in the layering. Which is why it's not just complete worlds over and over again. Some of them are complete. Some of them change less than others, and it's okay. But it's like each stratum is a reset all the way to 0, whereas each lamina is just loading a slightly previous version and changing from there. Does that make sense? It's like. Yeah. Stratum 5 is the one in which you decided to roll a bard, and Stratum 6 is the one where you're like, no, I'm starting this whole fucking game of Skyrim over, and this time I'm going to focus on, like, all physical combat. But I'm going to start from the very beginning.
I'm going to be the king of the wizards and the king of the assassination guild.
The actual problem is that, like, Bethesda games are the fucking worst example of this, because you literally can just do everything in those games. The example that I gave in the Discord chat is Lamina are contained inside of Strata. Think of it as a very complex video game save system. Let's say you imagine you've played through at this point 30 hours of Dwarf Fortress. At the very, very, very top, the in Strata 0, all of the things in Stratum 0 are this base you built at a river. And then like at Lamina 1, that is your current save. That's just like, or at Lamina 0, that's your current save. That's where you are right now. The Lamina behind under that could be, one in which you still built your base near a river, but on that one you lost a bunch of people in a landslide. And then there's one below that maybe didn't get as far in. It's only 15 hours in, and that's a save where you hit reset or you went backwards because all your crops spoiled or something. Then the next stratum, the next big thing is like, no, I didn't build my fucking base near a river at all. Back then I built my base near a forest. And so you're just like it's kind of just like completely new save states from the very beginning. And the reason they do this is because there are things that you can fix. Like as a god, the power that the gods had until Marielda ended was rewriting history. And so if you're Samathes and you want there to be a culture of engineers who know how to work with volcanic ash, you need to introduce them into society and culture and history at some point. There are times that you can do that by just rewinding the clock a little bit. You go like, I'll go back 700 years and drop them in here. And that'll give them enough time to like develop. But there are things you can't just do that with because too many other conditions are already set and already in place, if that makes sense, right? So like if I'm looking at my notes of previous stratums here, right? So for instance, there is one in which we've talked about this one before, where Severia and Galenica become like the leading gods, and in that world, the orcs and the halflings ruled the world from the jump. Severia and Galenica were just like, orcs, halflings, from the jump, you have a ton of supplies, they've gone into the game, they've raised all the sliders for who gets what, all the way up for the orcs and the halflings, and so from like day 0, the orcs and the halflings are just like kings. And so if you're Samathes and you're like, no, fuck that, like I want to go back the other way, I want to make it so that, Naker has a bunch of shit, you can't just go back 500 years and do it there, because at that point the halflings and the orcs have already like really dug in and directed history, and everyone's already speaking orcish and halfling, and so you go back and you're like, you know what, new strata, let's start from the very top. And that's what history was forever, going back before Marielda. It was literally just the gods making and remaking the world over and over again indefinitely, and just layering new worlds on top of the old ones. And so, like, yeah, sometimes Sam will eat 7 people. That's nothing compared to what the fuck these people have been doing forever. Like, the gods suck. I think that is as close as I can get to, like, what the basic thing of all of that is. Does that make sense? More sense? Less sense?
Yeah, no, more sense.
Okay.
More, yeah.
It's bad. It's not good. Like, and that's how it's been, or that's how it was until Marielda ends. So, trying to think if there's any other descriptions.
We used an analogy in one of the first episodes.
Yes.
That I think makes Samwell eating people sometimes pretty internally consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Of the bush analogy.
What was that?
You
trying to remember.
said.
Oh, the episode that hasn't come out yet. You're talking about.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and you can go ahead and use this analogy.
Okay, you were talking about you described or you said one of us described Samwell as a bush, and then all of the things of Hieron are the branches and the leaves and the fruit.
Right.
And so like if people are fruit falling off the tree and decomposing, that's what a bush does. It eats its own fruit.
Yeah. The thing that is like different is the bush doesn't also play guitar and like invite you over for dinner. But
sure, well, there's a lot of ways that Samwell is different than a bush.
Yes, 100%. Ice Cream Jones says, which bush, like Jeb, or Samwell just says, please clap. All right. So that is the strata and Leomina. We got to that stuff. And so, yeah, each stratum has a sun. Is the other thing. That's the other important thing, because that's 0. The first thing that is like beginning of recorded history. Before the sun exists, there is like, land and stuff. But like the beginning of culture for people is the sun exists. And so now we can start having days, which means we can start recording time, which means we can start building, and also we can start building things. So that is like each strata has a sun, basically. All right.
They never tried one without a sun?
You know what?
Maybe that's where they messed up.
I mean, you know what? Listen, Malithes definitely is all about getting rid of these suns. Yeah, like lower stratas don't have suns. The very, very bottom doesn't have a sun. The one where the Empire of Death is does not have a sun. The first sun at this point is, I have a note here, that's Samarthes and Samantine created. First sun is created, and then in parentheses, missing now. Because it had been stolen. That is part of what Malwyn was doing, or Malithes, or Samarthes II was doing throughout winter. This is what the cult of the Dark Sun was up to, was partially destroying those suns as a way to hasten the heat and the dark.
I think Hella's still holding on to a sun.
Yes, you have the ring, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Everybody gets to play with one of the suns. I feel like, but me, I feel like I'm left out of the whole sun biz.
Well, yeah, now that sun you have that sun, and also it's inside the sword now, so who even fucking knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I was hoping to bring it back home, but we'll see.
We'll see.
I'm very curious about how the next thing we record goes.
Yeah, me too. We still have to record another thing on another group still, Keith, so it's going to be a minute.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't. Okay, you guys have 2?
We have, yeah. Nope, it's fine. We'll get there. All right. I think that's it for this section, right?
Moving on to the holiday special now?
Holiday special. So, as you can see, I've circled Rosemarrow because Rosemarrow Party, Mountain Party, stays in Rosemarrow. Forest Party advances from there and goes to Rosemarrow. This is the same map, except it just says like RH1, RH2. This is Rosemarrow. This is all the districts of Rosemarrow. Again, if you're at the Mapmaker tier, I'm just going to link out to this stuff. And if you're listening on the audio, the video is up on our YouTube channel. You can go look at that. That's free. Anybody can look at that. Chancellor Lutz is killed. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a bunch of districts inside of Rosemarrow. A number of them detain someone who they believe is the killer or orchestrated the killings. And because Rosemarrow is the worst place in the world, they have a system by which you get kind of political prestige. It's not a system, it's a culture by which you get political prestige by bringing someone like this to justice. They have some good things about their justice system. One thing I'd forgotten about until I re-listened is like theft isn't a big deal. Like, everybody has someone in their family who's shoplifted before. You're going to get a fucking slap on the wrist for that. No one's going to jail for drug charges. But when someone kills someone, that stuff ends up being really, really important politically to show that you're tough on that sort of crime. And so a number of people are detained as potential suspects. Can we name them?
Mother Glory.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Who else?
The fancy lady.
Great. Renia Slayton, the ex-wife of Chancellor Lutz. Yeah.
Do we detain, or do we have the Lenny detained?
Lenny was one of them. Lenny was one of the suspects, yes.
Right, but was he officially detained, or
yes,
were we not?
He yeah.
Go ahead.
He like arranged his detainment because he owns the police and was like, oh, they're gonna question me, and then once I get out, I'll be fine.
And in fact, wasn't just detained. He was in like a really nice prison or jail, and made sure he got the worst cell, and was like making a big deal about being mistreated and a bunch of other bullshit because he sucks. Because Lenny Lenova is the worst.
He's the worst.
And then let him show up and be like, if you want to be mistreated, guess what?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Who else? Blake Bromley.
Weren't the Golden Lance people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Victoria and Gloria were both held. Or I think at least Victoria was held. Gloria was either held in a different cell or was like going to be charged with aiding and abetting. Tavira Shaw and the Ordenin Justiciar also was one, but was not under arrest at that point. Was kind of in the wind. And then Isaac Addleton, I think maybe, but by the time y'all found Addleton where Addleton was, or Addleton had been being held, he had already been whisked away. He was the illusion mage who had done a lot of the stuff in the West Shore upon Sea New Old Museum. I think that's the list. That's the list that's in my mind.
Honestly, West Shore upon Seas was still one of my favorite names of a place.
I love it. It's so good.
In the whole thing,
do you remember the name of the theater there?
No, what was that?
West Shore upon Scene.
Oh, yeah.
We're a big fan of that at the time. It's like the West Shore upon Scene.
Still a fan. Still love it. I forgot, but now I know again that I love it.
Yeah, y'all never investigated the ex-wife. Okay, who? So I think that's all. That's the big picture. Who were the suspects?
Oh, I have that PDF of the.
Oh, do you?
Oh, no,
awesome.
I have the first one. I have the first one.
It's in here somewhere for sure. Rose Marrow. Most important thing is Rose Marrow was in theaters that week. Here we go. Dr. Gloria Lake's notes on Rose Marrow. Gloria's Lake, my favorite Twilight Mirage NPC. Aduna Fell, not Tavira Shaw. Sorry, Tavira Shaw gets killed during the Twinbrook stuff. Aduna Fell is the Ordenin Justiciar captain who they're trying to pin it on, which is important because the word fell and she in general show up a little bit later also. Yeah, okay, so y'all got all. Oh, also Fire Monster, the star was one of the suspects theoretically, and then there's the Cult of the Dark Sun also theoretically could have done some shit. What happens? Talk me. I literally just finished listening to this today or like last night. I think I'm like 2 episodes past this now. So walk me through the big picture here. Besides the fact that it took us like 17 episodes.
Oh God.
We investigate Lutz's house. Pharaoh talks to a plant, doesn't get much information, but learns that like there were 3 people there.
Yes.
And one of them ran away. Then we're like, oh, it was that illusion mage. Let's go talk to the Ordenins because they have that dude. Go there. Dude is dead.
Yeah.
Or like had already escaped because he's an illusion magic guy. There were like burn marks or something.
Yeah. There were 3 burn marks, in fact. It was one of my questions was... I still have those questions, which is very funny. What happened? What happened to Chancellor Lutz? Let's go through these questions.
Okay, yeah, let's go through the questions. Chancellor Lutz gets put into a magic bubble by Arel.
Yes.
Who is Phantasmo?
What is the actual relationship there between Arel and Phantasmo?
Arel was the servant, right? The book carrier.
That is true, but also,
Phantasmo was like the good guy puppet disguise.
Yes. Yes. Does it sound like you and Laura Alley?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Phantasmo's Kermit and Arel is Jim Henson.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And Friends of the Table is the Muppet Show. Can we have a Statler and Waldorf character for the next season?
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. That's a pretty funny. Yeah, we should just do that with our Primetime Adventures game. Just get other players to just be on the call and be hecklers. That'd be very good. The Arel created Phantasmo as a facade, as a dummy, as a disguise, effectively, as a person who would not be detected to be Arel by the cult of the Dark Sun, so that Phantasmo and the disciples could work on getting these books, and also because like people just knew Arel was a fucking shithead. No one was going to send Arel to Eventide Isle to recover that book, but Phantasmo maybe. But especially the connection with the Dark Sun was trying to keep a low profile and keep his own head safe from any sort of assassin or whatever, and so lived invisibly. And yes,
I have
Chancellor
a
Lutz
question.
away. Yep.
How long has had Phantasmo been around instead of Arel?
A long time. Because
long enough to the cult of Phantasmo.
Yeah, for the disciples. Well, for the disciples of
Phantasmo.
Yeah, well, and long enough for the Isaac Adelton to have trained under him, right? Isaac Adelton remembers Phantasmo having trained him. I don't think that was just magic from Arel at that point. Though he also knew Arel. Yeah, I think he probably knew both of them as individuals, right? And did not make that connection. So they don't just they're not just. It's not Superman Clark Kent, you know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's enough that Arel is a buffer version of Phantasmo, apparently.
Buff and younger and darker hair, no ponytail, no glasses. But the build wise, when I said above version of Phantasmo, I didn't mean the same actor even. Yes, Sunder also knew Phantasmo, obviously. Yes, 100%.
What was I remember that this was answered in the original thing. What was Arel's original motive for creating Phantasmo?
What do you mean?
Why decide to have a second guy?
Oh, because the cult of the Dark Sun was going to assassinate Arel because he was trying to fight them. Yeah.
Got it.
He was a major antagonist to them. Second question on my list from the Rosemary thing. What created the 3 scorch marks in Lutz's bedroom?
Is that just the bubble?
One of them is the bubble.
Another one of them was of self-defense from the fight getting into the bubble. I
believe that's true.
And then was the third one Arel's bubble?
It was
not.
No,
the third one was someone escaping.
Yes.
This elf lady?
Was it what?
His apprentice. What's his name?
No, it was not. Because his apprentice was busy being fake Mother Glory, running through Roseheart to draw attention and try to blame Mother Glory.
Was it Blake?
It was. It was Blake using special magic flash paper to blind people and get away. When and where is Ordena invading the continent?
Soon and here.
Not here.
Soon in Velis.
Yes.
No. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Velis. Right.
Velis was the answer, which you learned from Gerard Shiraz, who was the vicereine of Velis. Gerard was kind of the head of the cultural and spiritual aspects of Ordena. I said Velis just now. I meant Ordena. My bad. And is the one who doesn't want to call shit. Her part of the Ordenan government is the part that is like not trying to take shit over and is just trying to like be chill. So
she had specifically been hiding the star.
exactly, yes, 100%. Abelis or Obelis. I forget how to pronounce that. I just have the note in front of me.
I have a question about something that I did that I forget.
Sure.
What did happen when I went to the Long Sand? I met someone that was very enigmatic.
Yeah, you met a sage. You met like this person who could read the future and the stars and such. And the sage gave you some advice. And I don't remember, even though I just listened to this.
Did I take it?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not.
You could ask questions to the
awesome.
sage. Was the thing. I did just listen to it.
Yeah, you were there to investigate a murder, and he was more there to be like, follow your heart, bro. And you were like, okay, I gotta go.
I gotta go.
Okay, well, if you said follow your heart, then I guess I did do that.
Right. Someone wants to know in the chat, Mary wants to know in the chat, why one of the stars was calm and collected and the other one was not. The one that you meet that is being held by Gerard Shiraz landed a few days ago, or landed during the heist at the museum, and has had days to learn the language and calm the fuck down. The one that landed in Roseheart and then was immediately setting everything on fire and then killed by Hela. So they hadn't had the time to acclimate to what the world was. We should actually, I mean, that's a specific thing, right? Like, what was up with those stars? How did that star, what was some of the stuff that the star was talking about? I think that conversation was Ephraim and Hadrian. What do y'all remember about that star?
Yeah, as far as I know, we met with Gerard Shiraz, right?
Yeah, totally.
About that, yeah, in the roof of an inn. Not the roof, the attic of an inn.
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
Roof would be sick, though.
That would be sick as hell. A little obvious, though, with the giant glowing star person. Yep. We had, like, a meeting with them, but I can't remember the specifics.
Yeah, I remember the meeting after that. Or
before, I think it was. I think the star comes late. Yeah, the star is pretty late. It's after the Urel stuff. It's after the other priest stuff. Obel Day. The star was surprised that people did not know the stars were coming. The star wanted to speak to people of the faith because they believed that Samat was supposed to educate people about their impending arrival. And also they seem to be unfinished. And so it's a combination of those two things. One, they land without language. They land without having like their wits about them. They land needing to like very quickly make sense of everything, and in the process set a bunch of shit on magic fire and turn it into other shit, which happened in Roseheart. But also and I guess like this is about stakes for the next season, right? The stars were one of Samat's many plans for how to stop the heat in the dark. They were supposed to come make a world that could resist the heat in the dark. He never figured out how to make that world one where people could live on it. And so in their minds, they're supposed to come and just make something that will sustain and that the heat in the dark cannot destroy. And they expected people to be cool with that, to be like, yes, we've prepared over the last century. We've we've become kind of stoic about the end of our lives because there will be new future stuff in the world. And no, unfortunately, no one knew that this was coming or happening. So yeah, that's rough.
Time to get stoic.
Yeah, I don't know. Emmanuel shows up. There's a great number of good scenes at the bakery Emmanuel is working at. This doesn't happen here, but it doesn't happen on screen. I imagine Emmanuel gives Lem that fucking poetry book back. There is some close the curtains on a scene moments there. There's one of those moments. I think in the background, off camera, Lem gets back that poetry book there during the hookup. Other important stuff here.
I died.
You did die. Arel kills you.
Yeah.
That dice roll is like 6d6. I just listened to that again like 2 days ago.
What I remember about that specifically is that I actually had a healing potion that I was thinking about drinking during that fight.
Yep.
And if I had taken it, I would have literally had just enough HP to like have 1 HP and survive that hit.
Yep, totally. Yeah. Oh well. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
Instead, what happened was you got an offer from Adelaide to do a favor for her to continue living, Adelaide, who is now the Queen of Death, or to become a vampire, an emotions vampire, and join the Golden Lance, because that is what Victoria offers you. And you say yes to that, which is great. And yeah, Marisol, Lem has the poetry book in the new archives, but there was this is definitely a retcon of just like, oh wait, the reason that he had it at the new archives is because I looked at his inventory and he did there, but he was not supposed to still have that book at that point. He'd given it to Emmanuel or had lost it at Naker. But our absolute retcon of that is like, oh no, he just got it back from Emmanuel here. That makes perfect sense. I don't think Siege is a vampire, no, because the Claret Holiday was a vampire, and Claret Holiday brought the guns and the the Lance Noble stuff off of Marielda into Hieron in general, and then that became a vampire thing. It was not a vampire thing in the City of Light. Also, there was another good one that I wanted to address. Eamon T says, why is it that no one knew how to prep for the stars? That is also a play to find out what happens. Question. Like, Samat is still in the world. Ask Samat why no one knew, you know? Other stuff that happens here. No one else dies. Well, no other player dies. Plenty of other people die, unfortunately.
Yeah, Mother Glory dies.
Yeah, Mother Glory dies. And Adelaide chooses not to let her live, right? One of the important things about that, they're like, I guess a couple of important things of the way like that stuff works. Both Arel and Adelaide have these kind of big picture goals about what they want to happen to everyone on Hieron. I almost said on the planet, which is true, I guess, but Adelaide wants there to be chaos and wants someone like Mother Glory not to be able to bring peace, because that will spread the curse further. She was not shot with her Denon Steel, or if she was, it's not in the scene. Maybe I say it in a later episode, but in the episode itself, she's just shot with an arbalest. She's shot with like a big siege weapon. Ephraim gets killed by her Denon Steel in a later episode. But yeah, Adelaide makes the choice to toss Mother Glory into entropy and into the heat and the dark. And likewise, Arel is making the choice to bubble people like Lutz, partially because bubbling someone like Lutz means getting people who Arel thinks are smart enough to start thinking through the heat and the dark and finding a solution. But also partially because as the world falls to chaos, boy, is it easier to convince someone to be able to be put into one of these bubbles, being brought into the study, as we see just after this. Right, Hadrian?
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, if Lutz is there, maybe Lutz convinces Ordena not to invade Velis. And if Ordena doesn't invade Velis, then Benjamin certainly doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, that's certainly true. Hadrian gets super spooked about Ordena invading, especially after Old Man's Chin and potential reprisals.
Yeah.
And evacuates his family.
Tim Howells in the chat says, Ordenon Steel is propaganda, I thought. No, their understanding of the curse is propaganda. Ordenon Steel is really, truly this weird anti-magical thing. It's why the snow and the blizzard doesn't affect their boats. It's why the water in the disturbed ocean during the Eventide Isle stuff isn't... Their boats are fine during that also. And it's why when you get killed by it, it's why, undead can die permanently from it. What else? There's another thing there. I guess Ordenon Steel specifically is a blend of Hieron stuff with the Heat and the Dark. Mages at the university post or around the erasure, I think around what we call the erasure, that period of time, do an experiment to create Ordena by blending land with the heat and the dark. It's part of why Samat's tower blows up or falls apart, because they use the land there, which is why all that place gets fucked up. So that is why Ordenon steel is the way it is. It is literally anti-life metal. It is the heat and the dark built into matter, which is maybe not the best thing to do. Which that part of the story is told again in, like, Samuel says a little bit of it here, Samuel says a little bit of it there, a little bit of it is in Hela's, like, one of the A plots we haven't talked about is Hela and, like, the history of the Ordenons, which you were studying through a book, right? Hela?
Allie said BRB.
Oh, I don't see that. Discord. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that's Hela has an A plot where early on she gets a book that is about Ordenon history and finds out that her bloodline had been, like, an official major one and then turned into this kind of, like, insult named one that's about them being traitors. And previously they had been the bloodline of magic, and they were founded by this woman Wander Aviz, who was a mage who lived in Naker, but who was able to, using her magic, leave Naker, go back to the university, and then eventually pass back through Naker after Ordena was created. I'm trying to think if there's any other big stuff here. Cult of the Dark Sun shows up. Lem gets that hilt, right? That happens. That's important. Did anyone else do anything interesting in Rosemarrow?
Killed a priest. Did we mention that?
Oh, you didn't talk about that. And you burnt the body, right?
Oh yeah, no, that was very, like, that was full Fargo. I went out during the snowstorm, burnt it in the middle of the.
I think it's important that that's a singular you and not a plural you.
Yeah. Did Hadrian just walk away from? Did that happen behind Hadrian's back, or did Hadrian let it happen?
I think the burning of the body happened behind his back, but he was still very much an accessory to murder.
Right. And I want to clarify really quick. No, Hela's sword is not Ordenon steel. Hela's sword is the blade in the dark that was made by Yellow House. That is not made, like, Ordenon steel is a very specific thing made by that specific experiment by the mages that create all of Ordena, and they're just, like, mining up this steel. So that is a different stuff, and it's different stuff than the star stuff. Star stuff is like the anti-heat in the dark. It has nothing to do with the heat. It is built to resist the heat in the dark, not to kind of be it. Yeah, and y'all didn't rob the priest. Important note from the chat.
Well, yeah. Just the murder then.
And yeah, that was not Prelate Lucius. Prelate Lucius gets killed in Velis. This is Obelday Adelberry, who is, like, a preacher as part of this church.
Who was part of the Dark Sun.
Well, like, that's part of the revelation of that episode, and then a later one is, like, the Dark Sun is all through the Creed of Samarthes. Like, it isn't...
The main reason I wanted to mention that was that we didn't just kill a priest for no reason. We found out he was part of the evil cult and was doing...
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah, now I remember that. Yes. Okay.
Other important stuff here. Adair, you get Blake into protective custody, who then they break out of it after they break out of protective custody and escape the city after the end of the detective game. What else happens here?
In hindsight, it's a little weird that one cop guy throws so much shade at Adair if they're in a culture where it's like, it's okay if you're a thief, kind of.
Yeah, totally. Agreed. Because
he's just a foreigner thief.
Yeah, you're a foreigner thief who also, I mean, he threw shade at you, but he didn't arrest you. You know what I mean? Like, Lenny dies. Lenny is killed in the streets by a sergeant. This is a narrative thing. Or a narrated thing. This is not, like, we don't see it happen, but there's, like, a cop who's like, I'm going to clean up West Shore upon Sea, but really I'm here to kind of grow in my own political gains. And yeah, I think Mother Glory dying and then Chatterchin continuing to ask. Mother Glory had already kind of said, hey, will you stay and help us? And then Chatterchin doubles down on that, and Fair asks Pharaoh to stay, and Pharaoh does not stay, right? And yeah, big one, Phantasmo dies. Arel laughs and is like, I'm done with this masquerade, and pulls the plug on Phantasmo, who, the only difference with someone pointed this out in chat, was the Muppet analogy, the Kermit analogy, is only true to a point, because what if Kermit could also make his own choices? Like, what if Jim Henson...
He does.
Yeah, he does.
All the time.
Okay.
There wouldn't be a show if there wasn't a Kermit running the show. Kermit's the showrunner of the Muppets.
Right, of
He has
course.
friends and family, too.
Kermit is the showrunner of the Muppets, and then Jim Henson is the showrunner of Kermit.
Checks out.
The Muppets.
Right. So yeah, Phantasmo dies, and that's sad. Oh, I guess also the party discovers who Arel is and discovers the Phantasmo stuff ahead of Phantasmo being killed, which is also incredibly sad. Phantasmo, they find Arel's actual study, not magical bubble study, and also put together that the charm spell also affected Arel. Arel also has a fascination with Samat. I guess it already had a light fascination, but it blew up in a big way after that charm spell, which is great. What else? I think that might be it, big picture-wise. No one gets anybody out of the bubbles. No one figures that out. Arel's staff is broken. I think that's all the big stuff. And then Benjamin gets put in the bubble. You put Benjamin in the bubble, Adrian.
Yeah.
That's technically the next sequence. So, there's a quick one. I'm not going to go over the details of it, but people should go back and listen to our holiday special last year, which was actually before the Rosemary game, but that was our little game of Follow. Is that what the name of this game is? This is Follow, not Kingdom, right? The one you did the convenience, not the convenience store. You did the strip mall in Marielda. That stuff's all here. Go listen to that. I'm not gonna go over the details, but it was really fun, and people should go listen to it.
Good Red Jack lore if you're a Red Jack.
Really good Red Jack lore in there. Samat is not aware he's been charmed. Samat's been charmed.
Sorry, I'm laughing at a thing that I did that I didn't remember.
And licensed notary.
Wally's Sensible Antiques and licensed notary.
Well, then across the street.
Wally's Laundry
and licensed notary. Yeah, that's where the joke.
Boy.
That's the good bit. There's also, and I just have this here, this is also the map from our our Misspent Youth game, which took place only in this little part of Marielda. So I just wanted to note that and keep on moving. We are back to the final arcs of Winter and Hieron. The mountain party leaves Rosemary and heads northeast to the new archives, and the forest party cuts through the forest, and then you'll see again I've used this big yellow loop to indicate that y'all went into the lower Lamina. You did some weird magic transportation shit. Also, Alyosha joins you. Alyosha is an exarch of the Church of Samathes, which is like a wandering monk who's supposed to kind of bring the word to people and help people and etc. I think that is the yellow and the red. I think those are the big things. Also, Devar. Devar joins you. That's the other big one. Devar Vanderdaws is an archivist, an orc.
I love Devar.
Devar is great, and Devar joins y'all on the way to the mountains. Devar is the one who's like, I know someone who knows more about this illusion magic stuff. That seems important. Alyosha, also important, developed over the course of the season as Arel's ex. Arel and he were romantically linked for years. And then
Devar's great because it's great to have someone around that's just always like, man, we're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, that is Devar's whole thing. I'm listening to those episodes now. I just listened to the Corsica New episode in which at the beginning of it, Devar's the one who's like, no, we shouldn't bring this zombie guy with us. We don't have the room or the food. But isn't mean about it. I also just have the zoomed in map real quick because this is Twinbrook and Old Man's Chin, but also the path that the mountain party takes is up through first a place called Triton, which is a it's a village filled with zombies or with the undead, but who are just in shock, right? Who are just laying everywhere through the town. They're undead, but they don't move. And Jeremy was one of them. Jeremy was a zombie who joins up with you briefly, or an undead person who joins with you for a little bit. Welcome back, Allie.
Sorry. I thought I was muted. I'm like, it's something on Twitter.
What?
Sorry.
Oh, you're on
No,
Twitter.
Go on.
Yeah,
It's fine. Sorry.
We'll get to your game. We'll get there. And then y'all get to Baron's Gate, which is under attack by some bandits, some undead bandits who are taking advantage of the fact that they are undead. And you also meet Corsica New there in the Unstill. And she is like a sort of self-appointed queen of the undead here on Hieron, who is someone who understands how to be undead. I've described her privately, at least, as being a Bethesda hero, as being like the character who is part of the archives. Like she has an archivist title also. I forget what it is off the top of my head. She's an archivist title. I think like unsigned letters or something, like the Duchess of Unsigned Letters or some bullshit. And then also is like an undead mummy lady, and also has been to Naker and has left Naker, is one of the few people who can do that, or who could say they've done that, and has also is just like a dope military commander, and she shows up, helps y'all beat these bandits. There's some back and forth with the church people at Baron's Gate, and that's, we don't need to get into it, but like there's the group begins to splinter, I think, here especially, right? There starts to be a splintering, especially between Lem and Pharaoh. And what is learned as you continue to go to the new archives is that Corsica New and the Unstill Corsica New has been teaching people who have died how to live with their undeath. In Triton, what you see is there are undead people who do not know what it is to be. They've been stabbed by a sword or shot in the heart with a bow and arrow, and then they can keep moving, and they don't know what to do with that. And someone like Jeremy was one who, was able to keep moving, but did not know how to like care for wounds and keep himself from smelling bad. And Corsica knew, because she's been to Naker and knows all of that stuff, and is able to kind of help people cope with their transition into undeath. And kind of like, hey, this is how you can like smell really good still, or here's how you can keep your wounds from getting worse, and here's how you can just like be a dope undead warrior with me instead of just kind of being whatever. Yes, as Joe P says, like, she's covered in bandages, but also she's super hot, 100%. And yeah, Baron's Gate, Ephraim, is also where you get killed, right? By Ordenin Steel, which should kill you instantly. But on your way to the Heat and the Dark, which is where Ordenin Steel sends you, you get caught by someone.
Andy went to bed, so if you're tossing to Andy.
Well, I was tossing to Andy. That's good. I did not see that at all. I don't have our private chat up. I have the group chat.
Yeah, Andy's been having allergy attack problems all night. Yeah.
Well, feel better, Andy. Andy gets killed. Andy doesn't get killed. Andy's fine. Andy's okay. Andy's the best. Andy's great. Andy's great. Andy's great. Retcon. GM Fiat. I can make a move as hard as I want, and that move is, Andy, you're okay now. Andy did not get Norded. Ephraim almost gets Norded, though. Ephraim is saved by Samathes. Samathes says, yo, I'll let you come back to life, but 1, you have to get that hilt off of Lem, and 2, you need to bring Pharaoh into my worldview, basically. You need to make Pharaoh believe in us. So that's that. That's good.
Who was it that said that?
Samathes.
Right, yeah.
Samathes 2. Malthes. And then y'all continue to the new archives, and shit goes wild there too. I don't know that I don't have like a ton of maps for the new archive stuff, because we just didn't have a bunch of them,
Some of that was the funniest shit.
Which shit?
It was so much fun. The betting stuff.
Oh, the betting stuff was really good.
Holy shit, that was so funny.
Trying to get a room stuff was really good.
Yeah, like all of the like dealing with like having to deal with a bureaucracy that's not just like, it's not just regular bureaucratic red tape, it's also like weird magic red tape.
Yeah, totally. It's extremely good. God, what else? you meet Oclantel, you meet Jean Kerr. Oclantel, who has been in the game before at this point, you meet Jean Kerr, who is like Oclantel's...
Pharaoh gets slighted by no one wanted to stay in his house.
Right, that's true. That's a big deal. Continues to be rough. What else? Right, you go through the door. You're doing this investigation. You're trying to find this book. That's like the big thing. You're trying to find this book, the Book of Life, which is here somewhere, because Arel is trying to get to it first, and you want that fucking book. And you end up going through a door, a magic teleportation door, a magic illusory teleportation door that takes you all the way out east to these islands, where you briefly see. It takes you into a book, but also out east. It takes you into a book that Devar recognizes.
It takes you to where a book is.
It takes you to where a book takes place.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, it takes you to a book, inside of a book, where the story of Galenica is being told, which is out on these islands out east, which is the only reason I put this here. Then, you may have also been looking for someone to illusion the plant to do more about stuff. That does come up in conversation. That is 100%. God, what else? Before things go really bad. Because things go really bad. It's the big stuff. Devar is, like, hanging out. Y'all start doing that pattern. 22 brown birds happens. You're kind of, like, trying to do all this stuff to make this one pattern happen. So that... What is that pattern for? Do you remember, Pharaoh?
Was this when I was already arrested?
It was, yeah, but you'd already started part of it.
I literally don't remember what the pattern was for. Was it to find? Was it not just to find the book?
Maybe it was.
Or was it to make some?
I know what the pattern that they were making you do ended up being part of the transportation thing, right?
Oh, they wanted the book of poems.
They wanted the book of poems.
They wanted the book of poems.
But they secretly wanted to switch Lem and Throndir, right?
They wanted that? Why did they want that?
Because it was part of the pattern. That was part of the pattern that Oclantel wanted. Oclantel wanted to switch those two. And no, you're right. It was both. You're right. Part of that pattern, that's what it was. Thank you, chat. Chat remembers. You, Pharaoh, you're in the untethered annex, and to get you out of there, they had to do that. That whole...
Right. Okay.
All that shit.
I remember that bit, but you said that we already started, so I was like, oh, it was something else.
And then they're able to use that to push Lem through the mirror with all the stuff that they'd been collecting. There's like a whole collection of shit that they need. That's like, they needed like the Book of Poems. They needed, I want to say, the Mask of Samat, maybe. There was like a whole big list of shit that they needed that's in one of the episode descriptions. And that is what they end up using to teleport Lem. Again, I have not re-listened to this stuff yet, so it's a big gap.
Here's a big gap for me is so I was so consumed with trying to figure out what I should do.
Yes.
And like if I should keep being a shithead.
Yeah.
Like if Pharaoh should keep being obstinate, to be more specific. I was so like in my own head about what to do there. I don't remember the solution to make the library smile. I wasn't listening because I was trying to figure out what I should be doing.
Here's my answer. I think it was pizza. I don't know.
Just give the library a pizza?
Yeah, I think that they were like...
They made a party or something, right?
Yeah, because the shit started going really badly, and then everybody was like taking refuge in the library.
Right. Okay. And there was pizza. Basically a pizza party. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, got it.
That's how you make anything smile in my experience. So, yeah, the list of things they needed to do this pattern. Okay, yeah, here we go. This is from episode 23. They pursued two patterns. They showed me only the first until today, but I've gained their trust, blah, blah, blah. They needed a lukewarm sun bowing, a room of seated prisms, two lodestars that carry the banner of the Queen of Death, one which sees the old world, one which destroys the old world, the second face of the bright boy, a tower of tomorrow's light, a new archive of broken whole mirrors, the cooling embers of a god's verse, a stolen fiddle in its home, and I think that's it. And they got all those. No big deal. That's all.
Oh
Simple,
shit,
simple
Lodestar. Do you think you're secretly Mike Pence?
Mike Pence wrote this recipe. 100%. The only archivist who's used the word Lodestar. Fuck. God. Yeah. I think that is it until things go really bad, and they go really bad when you get arrested and you get held by a guy who ends up being Devar's dad. Devar's dad became like a secret archivist cop as part of the Untethered Annex, and is trying to interrogate you and walk you back through the past to try to find the book. He wants to find Ventaro Doce, right? And he's trying to go through your memories and try to make you tell him where Ventaro Doce is, because he thinks Ventaro Doce has the book of poems that Lem actually has.
Right.
And
so he is trying to find the book.
Yes,
Totally.
totally.
Through Doce, knowing you already have
not knowing you already have the book literally upstairs. And so you turn into sand and fail that roll. And this is one of those things that's wild, because like listening through it all at once, you're like, oh right, because the wolves disappeared, and because the sand, and because the bugs disappeared. But in reality, that was like 8 months apart.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, I haven't seen that rule in 8 months, especially with the Rosemary arc, right? Where did this even fucking come from? And the answer is, you just didn't fail one of those rolls since the wolf in like game 4. And so we just never inspected it.
Was that game 4? I think it might have even been earlier than 4.
Oh, it's like episode 4 of the season. You know what I mean? So it's probably recording 2 or something.
I think it might have even been recording 1, but it was forever ago. Either way,
it's the moment when you try to turn into a wolf in front of Mother Glory is when it happens.
Right,
which is either the first or second recording for sure.
Right.
The bowing sun, a lukewarm sun bowing is, I think, the blade. It's the blade. It's the crescent blade. I forget what a room of seated prisms is. I knew what all of these were. If I look at my notes instead of just the wiki, I think I'd be able to find out what they all are. But we got there. Y'all got there. What else? Asking, like, how is that happening? Why does Pharaoh's shapeshifting feed the heat in the dark is also a play to find out question. Like, Pharaoh should look into that in this season if that's a thing Pharaoh's interested in, right? What else?
Seated prisms were the dandelion.
That makes sense. That sounds like a thing. All right. What else? Oh, you're right. The lukewarm sun is the archive sun, because they built that second illusory sun at the archives. That's true. Okay. You turn into sand. That goes bad. And when you turn into sand and fail, all of the sand of that type disappears in everything throughout Hieron, throughout all of the strata and lamina, which means suddenly it's like you hit oil, except instead of hitting oil, it was
the heat in the dark.
It was bees. Yeah. And you let all the bees in. You broke the jar, and the bees started pouring in. This is also where we get Oclantel's like, oh, the bee, like, the heat in the dark. He doesn't
understand metaphors.
Yeah, he doesn't understand metaphors. Heat in the dark. The world is like a jar of bees inside of a jar of bees forever.
It's funny that he doesn't understand metaphors, because pattern magic is like magical metaphor.
100%. And then Lem, as part of the pattern, goes to the whatever the name of the place is where the orcs were first made, some sort of forge or some sort of like altar. I forget the actual name of the place.
Real quick, Nora Reed says, wait, it was all the sand. I thought it was just the sand in one desert. It was
the sand
from where I grew up.
Yes. Yeah, it was the sand in Rosemary. It was the long sand. But I'm saying all of the lamina straight down in that place, right? All of that same geographical or geological sand.
Through the whole cake.
Yeah, through the whole cake. And then, boom, and so that it opened a path for the heat in the dark to bust through. Meanwhile, and then also Lem, as part of the pattern, turns a bunch of people into water, plays a song that destroys the ancestral origin home of the orcs, and destroys everything. The stoneworks, yes, thank you, chat. It was fucked up. Then y'all go on to confront Arel and Jean Kerr, and there's another person whose name I fully don't remember, who's another archivist person, and you recover the book. You recover the Book of Life. That's what's important about that final sequence there. Or maybe, I don't know that you're there, Pharaoh. I think it might just be Ephraim and Throndir.
I'm still imprisoned. Right?
Oh, you're right.
So I'm I'm imprisoned until the moment Lem and Throndir switch.
Okay, right. Well, then you must be here at some point, right?
But then
Where do you go?
I left it again because I yelled.
Oh, you yelled.
So I get
yes.
So
yeah.
I'm dead. I'm pretending to be dead to fool. What's the cop's name?
Something Vanderdals. I forget his first name, but it's
Devar's dad.
Devar's dad. Yeah.
I'm pretending to be dead to fool him, and it works. And then all of a sudden,
the door opens.
And I'm dead on the floor, still feigning death. And they're doing the story thing, and Pharaoh gets mad that no one cares that I'm dead, and they're doing this whole thing. And then the thing that they do is they hand over the thing that I was trying to protect this whole time by being like tortured.
Yeah.
And then I flip out.
And you flip out. Lem switches places with Throndir, and then you leave with Oaklantel to go investigate the star stuff, and you meet that vulture, that smooth-ass vulture.
See, now this I don't remember.
Oh, you don't remember the sexy vulture? You don't remember that?
I don't remember the sexy vulture.
He's smooth. He's like down here somewhere.
Maybe he just didn't do it for me.
No, you love the smooth vulture. Let me tell you. You love that smooth vulture.
All right,
I'll have to find the episode and link you to it because I remember you being very happy with that vulture.
I'm listening through.
Yeah,
to try to catch myself up, but I'm way behind where you because I started with spring.
Right. But yeah, you go to study the heat in the dark and the star stuff. You go and you find that like the star stuff has started not just being people, but turning into like buildings and things. So which is weird. Meanwhile, Throndir and Ephraim kill or win the fight against Cal Fair, who is one of the collectors, and get the book back. Convince them that like we need the book. We're the ones who it's safe. It's us. And then Arel, you confront Arel. That's it. That's the end of their thing, right? Throndir, you fight Arel.
Mm-hmm.
How's that go?
And Ephraim.
Wait, does Ephraim... Wait. Oh, you're saying Ephraim also fights with you, not against... Yeah. I thought you meant you fought Arel and also fought Ephraim.
No.
Yeah.
Ephraim was right along there in that library.
Yes. And you miss with your Denon Steel, right? And the kill goes to Kodiak?
No, it was...
You just chose not to.
Me as a person forgot to, but gotcha. I think like me as a person forgot the mechanics of that. But I think in character, the way I rationalize it is that they had just gotten Benjamin out of the bubble.
Right, that was the trade, right? You made this trade. Yeah. Or you'd started to make... Did you actually agree to the trade and then go back on it?
No, I don't think there ever was a trade.
It was just like, yo, we're not even going to talk until you bring Benjamin back.
Yeah.
Right.
And Benjamin was rightfully so freaked the fuck out. And Throndir was like basically like hugging Benjamin, and then Kodiak killed or did the last mortal hit on Arel.
Yeah, you definitely shoot Arel at some point or throw a sword or something.
Well, it was because after Kodiak, quote unquote, killed him and he got back up.
Yeah.
I/Throndir was like, oh, fuck, right. That's how this works in this world right now. And threw the sword at him, and he was just like, nope.
He staves it away or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Kodiak,
I'm pretty sure he broke
fucking snatches his throat is what he does.
Yeah.
You break the staff earlier than that. You definitely break the staff during the Rosemero game, and that's what causes that big explosion.
Yeah.
But
he broke the Ordnance Steel sword that Throndir had.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Damn.
Yeah. Because Kodiak ripped his throat out, which killed him, but then he came back because of the curse.
Right.
Throndir freaked out, threw the sword at him. He just like batted the sword away like it was nothing, and then teleported.
Right. According to Caliber in the chat, Throndir agreed not to kill Arel if he took Benjamin away from the paradise, and then he did it anyway.
Oh, all right. I mean,
okay,
that sounds right.
And that explains. That reminded me of why I got angry a second time.
Because then Pharaoh comes back and is like, you should have made that deal with Arel. Because the deal that Arel was making, was trying to offer you also was like, I can make this cool bubble with the Book of Life and the star stuff that will keep everybody safe. We can all move to the university and try to figure out another solution for the heat and the dark. And you were like, yo, fuck that, you suck, you killed my friend. Which, fair. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that was... And then Pharaoh explodes at Throndir over that. And Rosanna Like
it was partially about Benjamin too, right? That's the part that I remember.
I haven't heard that sequence again yet, so I'm not 100% sure. Hadrian,
I think it
do
was
you remember?
I think it was like he was like part of it was the like this, Arel sucks, but like he's asking, and it sounds like an okay way to maybe solve this. But then also it was like, but you took Benjamin out of the safe place.
Yeah, I'll have to. That might happen. I need to re-listen to that. And then Rosanna was like, "Yo, Throndir, you shouldn't have done that without like chatting with some people, for sure."
Wait, why was she there?
Because she came with Alyosha. Remember, Alyosha brought everybody from Veles to Rosemarrow, and then again from Rosemarrow to the archives when the sand all disappeared.
Right. I just remember you telling me I couldn't have Rosanna come with us.
Yeah, that was because she was going to end up being a weird mechanic thing that always going to be in danger or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, well, then is she in the sequel? Like, I didn't want there to be a woman on screen whose entire focus was going to be, I'm going to put her in danger for Hadrian to save. And also, separately, the other thing that happens, which literally immediately happened with Alyosha, was just forget that she is there because I'm worried about, like, what the enemy HP is, and I forget that she's there doing stuff. And that would have been just bad. Like, that would have just been really gross on screen. We talked about that behind the scenes for a while. And instead, we were like, well, the thing that she's been doing is basically being a lay leader of the Church of Samathes and the refugees of Veles. And so she continues doing that. And as part of that duty, chides Throndir for being kind of impulsive and not thinking about the bigger picture. And so, yeah, she kind of steps up as the leader of that whole group. Especially with Alyosha gone. Like, Alyosha leaves that group in charge, or leaves her in charge of that group, basically. And then, Pharaoh, you also get into a big fight with Severia and Galenica, but especially Severia. They reveal that they're the ones who gave you your druidic gifts, and that they wanted you to help, like, build a new world, not focus so much on there being old bad shit. But also, they had never been around. They also reveal that they're part of the Grand Tour, which has been, over time, gliding up and down. Grand Tour is this like collection of thousands of horses and chariots and such that magically re-stitch the world together, because what's revealed is the eastern half of Hieron has been kind of torn to ribbons by the heat and the dark. Y'all have been living in the part that is not, where the heat and the dark hasn't spread as badly as it was, and this is also part of why Ephraim was moved around so often as a kid, was because the heat and the dark in the east had turned that world into like a weird sword and sorcery, like psychedelic nightmare zone. So that's a big one. Karen wants to know what Pharaoh's problem with Severia was, and I think it was
fucking rude as hell, man. What?
That's
We made you. You got to do this. You got to do that. Fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
I had a bad day.
You did have a bad day.
You did have a bad day. All right. Is there any other North stuff? Oh, and then at the end of that group, y'all set off with a bunch of refugees headed south to the university. You keep the Book of Life, and Uklantel, I think, is like, yeah, I could work with that book. I could figure out some stuff between that and the star stuff and the heat and the dark. You convince, a bad roll happens, Pharaoh, where you convince Uklantel to start, like, getting... Uklantel is previously, like, a book-smart, like, archivist who focuses on the research other people did, the field research other people did.
Yeah, he's a nerd.
He's a nerd. And you convince him to be like an action nerd. And so he starts like doing more experiments and going out into the field more. And the last shot of him is like working with the star stuff directly. Oh, right. And then, yeah, Ephraim, this is because Andy's not here right now. Ephraim also kills Malthes, but I guess let's pause on that so we can set up what the fuck that is. Because meanwhile, over in the other game, y'all go into the strata and lamina, and there's a whole thing with the rings, and there's like a runaway couple, and like they're being chased by the cult of the Dark Sun, and there's lots of confusion around if the Dark Sun is the same as the Creed of Samathes, right?
Yeah.
Real quick, I have to run and do some more moving stuff.
Okay. Last thing you did was go northwest back to the Mark of the Erasure.
I just wanted to let everyone know, yes, the last thing I did was walk by myself to the Mark of the Erasure.
Right.
That's the very last bit.
And it was important you walked because you were not transforming into things anymore.
Right.
You did not fly that
I
way.
hadn't sensed the sand.
Right. And yeah, we'll get to the Alyosha, Ephraim, like Malcolm stuff. I just want to set all that stuff up better. All right, Keith. Have a good night.
Later.
Good luck with moving.
Yeah. Thank you.
Allie, Janine, Dre, and Hadrian. Art, that's your name. Talk to me about this side of things.
I think I want to talk about why everyone else gets a name.
Hadrian went through a lot, you know. It's
sure.
First to mind. I guess the first and most important, the only important thing for me of like the going through the threshold spaces and like walking through the trees and then like the fight with those other dudes was that eventually you get this ring from this lady, right? That is a son also. And that all culminates in this sequence where Hadrian has a chance to destroy that ring, and that is what Malathes wants him to do, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
I believe that's right.
Yeah.
New Samathes.
We lost you for a second. Can you do that one more time?
Sure. It's gonna recording though. I'm
I know, but for me, because I
time.
couldn't hear what you said.
Yeah, that is what Malathes wanted.
Okay. I guess this is also the sequence where Hela winds up in like alternate dimension Nacre, right? Or further down Lamina Nacre. That's where you see the statue of Wanda of Ease. Right? You like float downwards.
I failed some roll. I think I was like,
wild.
Hela's sword is magic, and Hela thinks this whole like fucked up world is magic, so she like just tried to cut into something to see what would happen, and then just like slips.
Right. Oh yeah, you slide down and then you float back up, or whatever. It's a lot.
Didn't I like tie a rope to Kodiak and then send Kodiak to get? Is that what happened there? I have a vague memory of. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's right. There's a moment when Hadrian throws a sword or throws a chain. Throws a chain to see how how far down things are from this one floaty bridge, and it just rips into reality and reveals another deeper one. And then all of that does culminate in the Hela Hadrian stuff, where Hela has the ring on. Hadrian has to decide whether or not to like hurt you and destroy the ring, or not do that, and decides not to do that. Hadrian, is that before or after the ladder and other
This
stuff?
This is before.
Way before.
Yeah, this is before we get that deep.
Okay.
Maybe two, 3 recordings before.
Okay. So the dwarf fight happens, and then you finally make it to the buoy. I think this is the first time I've shown this map at all. Also, is that right? I think that's right. So I couldn't find it anywhere. Yeah, Art, you can play this game.
Well, I mean, you haven't never shown it.
Why is there a thing here that says 8-ball team and there's a cherry bomb?
That's Hadrian. Remember when we all had like different? We basically came here and we're just like, let's go fuck around. So.
Right, because this was supposed to be another September situation of like, and it actually was this time. You all actually did like explore this whole space, basically, right?
Yeah. We went to a bar, which was sick. There was a bunch of people fighting.
Right, that was like
cool.
a Severia bar, and there was like a cool bartender.
Yeah, there's a cool bartender. Sunder's there, just like smoking anxiously.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
Right, when you have to explain to Sunder what happened to Phantasmo, and also that Phantasmo was what Phantasmo was. There was the weird tree tower in the middle. Remember that? It's like an upside down pine tree that then like weirdly connects again. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was a weird nervous guy at the bar.
There was a weird nervous guy at the bar. He was good. Good job, Adair.
We end up like, I think we go to the church just to be like, what's the fucking church like down here? This is weird.
We kind of a September moment there, right? Because we sort of like skip to the end.
Well, no, that's not really the big skip. The big skip is the Samathes thing, or the Samuel. The Samuel thing is really the big skip. But the church thing was like y'all had dinner with people from the Dark Sun and realized it's the same church pretty much. and also that it's Son, S-O-N. So, that stuff. Throndir goes to the Sonorous Academy, which is like the magic music school. I forget what you do there. Do you like research vampires there?
Yes, yep. Mm-hmm.
What do you learn?
I don't think I learned much, because I think it was like Throndir was like, "Oh, this place has a library," and they're like, "But we're a music school," so like I think he found like maybe some songs or something that were about vampires or something like that, but I think that's about it.
Right.
I mean, that's like trying to learn about vampires in this world and consulting the Monster Mash, right?
Right, yeah. But you find something, you should be researching Jay-Z's verse on Monster. That's where you get all the info you need. Who goes
first things first?
The Duke of Halted Expectations and Unexpected Alliances. Is that a dare?
I think so, yeah. I think that was a deal-making occasion.
What was that deal you made? Do you remember it all?
I think it was like a reconnaissance thing. That's where I got the cool Lamina map. The like layered vellum kind of map with all the different things. I think he gave me that.
Okay.
Because we like chatted.
And then someone else went to the ghosts, the Grand Temple, to the Ghost of Past and Future, which was the like halfling priestess that kind of explained what pre-Samathes religion was like in halfling culture, right?
Yeah, Hella specifically goes there to try to get information on like that weird statue that she saw. Or to Staro. Chat says to Staro, I think it was also that. And then she gets like a weird vision about Hadrian and then like flips out and
wait, what's the Hadrian? Oh, that's the vision that Hadrian is in trouble, basically.
Yeah.
Right. People in chat are noting that you got the monster map, Adair.
I don't know what that means.
You gave someone the monster map?
I'm pretty sure it was a map that was like layered and relevant to this area. I don't remember it being a monster map.
Graveyard trash.
It was because of
Oh boy.
Chet is right. It was a situation where there was like, "Hey, I'll get people to trade. They just got to know where they're going."
Gotcha.
Gotcha. That was the scam.
Thank you for singing in the background. So yeah, trade. And then there were cool mosaics, if I remember, in the temple, and like ancestor worship and such. Really, if people really want to remember halfling religion, one of the important things for me was like the halflings that we saw in Rosemarrow. People were investigating the ones that they felt were the scummiest because there was a murder and it was time to investigate the scummiest ones. And like, so I think that this character and the temple were originally just straight up in Rosemarrow as a place you could have gone to. And I just like transposed it down here because, Lamina and Strata, they could be another one of those somewhere. Sure. Yeah. And so you, that I wanted to make sure there was a vision of halfling culture that was not just like scummy Republican / like British folk culture worshipping bullshit. And so we're glad we got some of that in there. Lack House was the other place that some of y'all went, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where
that was Throndir and Adair.
Right. Where the whole thing there was what?
There was two different halves, and I think one of them was like a memory, and the other one was I cannot for the life of me remember what Adair saw in the Lack House, and I'm really upset about it.
Really?
Oh, I remember.
What was it?
So it was you could either see a life of yourself with whatever you were lacking, or if you like had gotten rid of it or something. And Adair went there and like was with her family, I think. Does that sound right?
I don't know.
And, Throndir had like seen if he had like taken revenge on the snow elves that he still held anger towards, and like realized that he wasn't happy, and then Adair was like in this place that she had like lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it was just like a moment where she was like in her childhood home and realized that like her parents couldn't provide for her and the people around her wouldn't.
Right.
That was the thing. It
was like the break of
yeah.
society. Like she stopped believing that society would help people.
The true connection thing was at the bar that came up in the chat. That wasn't the lack house. That was the thing she says to the bartender who asks what her lack is.
Okay. Cool. I don't remember what Green Perch was. I don't think anybody went to Green Perch. I don't think anybody went to the Blocked Path. But, Hadrian, you do go to the House of First Light.
Sure do.
How's that go? Talk to me about that.
It doesn't go great. Alyosha comes with and
Which fair.
disappears.
Right. You climb this. First of all, I think people are like, don't go there, if I remember, right? Like, you get a boat out there, and they're like, this isn't, okay, sure. And then, yeah, you climb the House of First Light, which is the icon of it is a lighthouse. I love that on this map that I did, the icon for that lighthouse thing, one, I think it might just be the tower from Oblivion. Two, it has a shadow, and the shadow just falls off of the side of this map into the air. I don't know. It's weird down here. That could happen. Eamon T wants to know what I use for my little buildings. This is all just Roll20 stuff. This is just like you can search Roll20. You can just search the internet for stuff, and Roll20 has its own collection of stuff. So between those two things, that's where I get everything on this stuff.
Slow down.
Anyway.
Search the internet for stuff.
For stuff, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, Alyosha gets pulled away, gets zapped, gets like floated away to the, again, there's like lighthouse, question mark? So you climb that lighthouse, you wind up here where it says lighthouse on the map, and then you see Alyosha go across this bay and to the Dark Sun, the Forge of the Dark Sun. And you are given an offer, right? Or is that later? Is the ladder offer now? Or
no, I think it's like right then, yeah.
How's that go?
It's like it's a choice to follow Alyosha, or it's a
right.
And the Forge, right?
And you choose the Forge.
Yeah. It just really felt dramatically appropriate at that time. Yeah.
I always wonder what would have happened if you had fucking gone the other way.
You're the one who would have had to know.
I would have known then, because we would have done it. You know, that would have been what would have happened. Is that the sequence? So from there, how do they get you back?
Samothrace 2 is kind of a dick.
Oh yeah, huge, right?
He takes the cloak.
Or do you give him the cloak? He demands the cloak.
He demands it.
Yes.
I was gonna use the Arrested Development, the Joe Blue thing. Where, like, they told you not to go. I was gonna do the like the guy in the cloak of a god is gonna. But yeah, he demands the cloak. He takes the cloak. I remember it just being like horribly uncomfortable. He gives the scary sword.
Yes.
To quote chat, the dark sword.
Yeah, he breaks. You've had this golden sword from the throne room from season 1 forever, right? It was like you lost your spear, which was your main real weapon, and you picked up this golden sword from like the floor of the throne room, and had it already broken, and he repaired it, or did he break it and give it to, or just dip it in the dark?
It.
Okay.
He like took all of his dad's stuff.
Is that okay? Okay, sure.
I was like, this is mine now. Here's a worse version of what you came here with. Goodbye forever. Hadrian to Samol, right? He's like, I remember just.
Were you just there, or did you wash up? Because there was a whole boat situation.
No, that was everyone but me.
Oh, so you just wind up there?
Yeah, they like go through this like harrowing process, and then it's just like
he like sends you there specifically. Yeah.
Hadrian just walks up. I tremendously fail a boat roll, even though Hella's been around boats her whole life. And then we just
there is, you can see it here. This little house was previously just in the middle of this sea, but once y'all land there, Samuel like unanchors it and is also being pursued by. So there's a little house in the middle of this. So the buoy, for people who aren't looking at this map, is like a city that's on the top of a giant weird tree trunk that is like multi-layered, and angles are hard to draw. Okay. And there is a place called the Standing Sea, which is this like sea that, or like a lake really, that splits the buoy into a couple of different tiny islands, and then like kind of one big major one, and then kind of one off in the corner. And then it also is like a waterfall that just drops down into lower strata and lamina. And there's a little tiny house that was in the middle. That is where Hadrian shows up. The rest of you go to get a boat, I think from the Calhoun Clean Blade Company, which has no reference. There's no real connection. This is not a bit. Like, there's not a lie. Like, no connection to the Calhoun Triste. Sometimes people just have the same name. And you get on a boat and fuck up. What is the fuck up? How do you fuck up and still land on that? Oh, because you're trying to get to the House of First Light.
Yes.
Right. And instead you land on this island.
I get caught up in this, like, whatever, and go down this whatever.
Yes. Totally. Totally.
I want to say it was some bullshit with the sail. Like, the sail
that sounds
swung
right.
and then broke.
That sounds right.
I think that's,
Yeah, I think I specifically said that, like, Hella was pulling on something too hard.
Yeah. Someone in the chat, just Juliet said, sure they do also. And I'm serious. Like, someone just asked this on Twitter recently. And I said that the thing that I'd learned as I gotten older was that there are ways you can be haunted without ghosts, right? And like, meeting someone who has the same name as someone you loved once who is dead is a thing that starts to happen to you as you get older. And it's like, well, fuck this. This sucks. Like, I'm just trying to get a pizza right now. I don't need to be dealing with the fact that Robert is here or whoever, right? In this case, Calhoun. So that is all that is. I promise there is no twist to that.
It was just emotionally jarring, and we all moved past it.
We all moved past it. Exactly.
Spoiler, Calhoun is a Rel.
That's right. Calhoun Orel. Yeah, exactly.
Other ways to be haunted without ghosts. Ghouls.
Also ghouls. 100%. Also, the cool ghost dog thing that's on this map currently.
Barnabas?
Is it Barnabas? Is that the name?
Mm-hmm.
Jack and I were trying to figure this out recently. Because there's Barbello, who is somebody else.
No, Barbello is the dog.
Are they?
Yes.
You're sure?
I'm like 99% sure Barbello is the dog.
Okay.
I can look at my notes.
No, I believe you. Barbello seems to be the dog.
Okay.
Here's the thing I love is on the wiki, it says Barbello's name may have come from the real world dog Barbello Pateau de Guaja, nicknamed Barbie, a Great Pyrenees owned by a Latvian breeder. And that's dope. I hope that's like, let me take a look at this dog.
I thought you were going to say, I hope that's true.
It could be. I don't fucking know. Look at this cool dog. Let's bring this dog over here.
Wait, where's the dog?
I put it up on the stream. Look at this good dog. Great Pyrenees mountain dog.
Oh, that is a good dog.
That's a good dog. Look at all these dogs.
Okay, well there we go.
Oh, these are good. Hell yeah. Oh, look at this one.
Man, yeah.
This
Great
one.
Pyrenees are incredible.
Love the ear detail.
Love it. Unbelievable. All right, I'm gonna close this and definitely not click on video, where I hope to see good dog videos. Great Pyrenees.lv. This isn't working. All right, back over here. Y'all land on Samuel's Island and get the Marialda story. I guess that's the other thing that happens on the other side of the game is Oclantel gives the other game the Marialda story, right? I guess that's Throndir. You get it from Oclantel.
Yeah,
right.
Because at that point, I've been teleported you're switched with Lim. Right?
No, the other way, right? Because you're not switched yet. You switch after the story.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Because you're... Oh, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
I think it's when we arrive. I think it's when we first go to that garden.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, because we did a bad job of guessing what the groups were going to be during the Marielda intros.
Oh, that's right.
We double fucked it, actually. Because we double fucked up because not only... It's still wrong, because then there's a thing in the Ottoman Hieron outro, or in the rehab... Not the rehab, Jesus Christ, recap. There we go, words are hard. Where I'm like, make sure you... Okay, Stormos, take this blade to... Lem in the mountains. Like, well, fucking no one's at the mountains anymore, and Lem is in the sword. So good luck. Sometimes you call a shot and the shot doesn't work out. You know, sometimes it's like maybe you won't be a paladin anymore. It's just like I truly don't care. Is like the fun thing about it. Is like okay, whatever. Like I got across the thing in the moment. It's fine. If we ever do like a movie, it will be the right words instead of the wrong words. What else? Okay, so y'all land here. You get the Marielda story from Samuel. Samuel's a cranky, depressed dude who's dying. There's like a talk with Adair about her lack and about like friendship, right?
I mean, by talk, it's mostly
lecture.
Talk is like it's more like he tries to pry some info out, and she's kind of just like, "Shut up and let me look at the water," kind of like it's not as much of a back and forth as maybe it could have been.
Yeah. Totally. Any other important stuff that happens here before things blow up? We learn that this is where we learn that the Hitchcocks wound up here and helped build all of the buoy.
Yeah.
Anything else?
You
learn you're being pursued by Ordena.
Yeah. Simul tries to... Yeah.
Wait, one more time?
Simul tries to explain some of the bloodline stuff to Hela, but mostly just tells her that she's an asshole.
That sounds right, yeah. But we do get the bloodline stuff between all of that stuff and the intros and blah, 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 which again is... Hela is descended from, like, Wander, Aviz, and the Aviz family, who were a group of, like, magically powerful people. That's the thing we haven't... Did we get to any sort of betrayal? We know there was a betrayal, right? Or a thing that was considered a betrayal, but I don't know that we've ever shown that on screen. Do you know why they became the Viral family instead of the Aviz family?
That's either... I think it was in one of the sword flashbacks, or, like, something she vaguely gets from Renjack, which is, like... It was 4 different houses of Ordena or whatever, and they were trying to do spells again, essentially, and they were like, nope.
Right.
Never doing that again, ever.
Yeah. And the Hitchcocks show up. That's the Hitchcock swords are at Simul's place, and he explains that they belong to people who, like, helped a bunch of people in the long run and helped build a community. And what he's gesturing towards is the buoy, is like the beginning of the very first parts of like this cross section of different lamina and strata that people could go to. Because that's what the buoy is. The buoy is not just a place in a different lamina, or it is that, but it is also, it's become a crossroad for Dwarven culture, basically. Trying to think if there's anything else there. So then things go bad. The Ordenans show up. Well, they kind of go good, sort of. The Ordenans show up. And there's a big fight. And Lem is in the kitchen yelling about everything and breaking things and trying to do patterns. And the sword breaks after. So Adair kills the head Ordenan. There's a bunch of really great fight scene things.
It's fucking nonsense. That every time I think about that, it's just so silly that it actually happened the way it happened.
What way?
It just on paper it seems so absurd that Adair could kill any Ordenan at all ever.
Yeah, D&D's weird.
Yeah.
You fight the Fell Anchor, which are anchors made of it seems to be Aduna Fel, the woman who was thought to have been a traitor to or was being signaled out as being the killer of Lutz, even though she absolutely was not, and in fact was being targeted because she was like it was like a rival of the leader of the Justiciar, right? And then you fight that ghost dog, you fight the blink dog, and you fight the blink dog's master, and you fight a bunch of other troops. How do you end up on the fucking boat with the sword? Oh,
Yeah,
Hadrian, you're told to destroy the sword, right?
Yeah.
That's the specific thing that Samothrace 2 tells you.
And someone had taken the sword and was escaping with it,
Right.
And then that guy gets killed, and then Hadrian's
in the boat with that guy with the heat in the dark sword.
There's a magnetic guy. Remember the magnetic guy?
Is that not one of the fell anchors? That's not one of, like, the special anchors?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they're rad.
Who, like, takes our weapons, and then I guess Hadrian gets the blade in the dark somehow that way.
Yeah. I think he gets back on the boat and is like, I'm going to get out of here. And then, yeah.
Wait, I don't think they actually take our weapons. I think the whole thing was, like, you, like, fake surrender, right? And then they take your weapons, Hela. And then you also just, like, flex out of the chains? Or does that happen later?
That would happen
also
now.
happens.
Yeah, that would all have to
Yeah.
happen right in here.
Yeah.
Apparently the Barbello stole the sword at some point.
Okay.
Good dog. And then someone says you punch someone to death. Nice work.
I believe it.
And then this all builds to this moment of Hadrian raises this new dark blade, this new dark sun blade to destroy the blade in the dark. And then, do you roll guidance? What do you roll to get? What move do you do to get the vision of inside the blade?
Oh, I do a heirloom roll.
You do the heirloom roll,
yeah.
right?
The only one I've ever sucketed at.
Nice work, because we've been getting those all season, right? You got those all season and saw like glimpses of this place where it's green and beautiful. I think you even see Red Jack was in there at some point, right? They like tell you that, or like you get a vision of Red Jack in there at some point.
Yeah.
You get images of like presumably of Samothrace and the mages inside, and slowly building up a society in there after Samothrace is really mad. And you get right there it is. Tim Howes remembers this great one. You don't need to be near the sword to do the heirloom roll. That's a really good one. And so the heirloom roll fires, and Hadrian sees Samothrace inside with a star and with one of the mages playing chess. You'll be happy to know, and it hasn't come up on our new recordings yet, but I figured out how their game of chess works. It's very cool. It's like bridge chess. It's a whole thing. It's 4-player chess. I'll get into it maybe one day. And stops and refuses to break the blade. Right? Okay. Good. And brings it back.
Yeah.
And then
Adair's throwing rocks at Hadrian while he's doing this. Is my favorite detail of this episode.
Good. How's the blade break? Is it from the bad song? Is it from Lem? Lem breaks the blade, right?
I don't remember.
It breaks partly, I think the song fucks up the plumbing mostly and creates that big flood in the house. But it starts to break it a little bit, and then there's the weird magnetic guy, and then the fight.
Right, it's been breaking. It breaks throughout that fight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, bit by bit by bit. And then, as Tim Howes again in the chat notes, it's Benjamin's hand on you that convinces you not to break the blade. Hadrian, which I'd forgotten about. Yeah, totally. And then, the violin snaps, the magnet breaks the blade, and the sword water joins the plumbing water, and the island starts to flood.
And then that's it.
I'm just making sure there's nothing else. Is there any other weird shit? You all fall into the sword water. Adelaide grabs your hair, Hela.
I pull her in.
And
that's probably fine.
Yeah, it's definitely okay.
Austin told me in private.
I said, yeah, don't worry about it. It's going to be all right. Well, what I did say at the time, important things. One, I said this will stop the undead from existing in Hieron. because if you die now, you just go right into the heat and the dark. There is no more person on kind of the throne of Tristero. Outside of a situation like what we saw where either you have a god in your presence, like Samat saved Hadrian in season 1, or you have someone who is like looking for you as you begin to fly towards the heat and the dark, which is what happened with Ephraim. Because I don't remember, there's a very important detail about the Ephraim thing, which is that Ephraim told Highwater, who was this Cobbin spy who was sent to kill him, convinced her not to kill him and said, go back and tell your lord that I'm already dead, or that you killed me. And so Samothrace was already on the lookout for Ephraim at that point, which is like a small detail, but I just re-listened to it. I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting. And so, yeah, so as you guys go into the sword, y'all go into the sword, pull Adelaide in with you, wash ashore. Hadrian, you make eye contact with Samothrace. Samothrace does the whole, like, he brought you back to me, referring to Samat. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, Ephraim rebuilds the blade that was given to, that was supposed to be given to Malwyn originally by combining the hilt that Lem had with the crescent blade, which brings him immediately to the side of Samothrace, who he kills. Doing that makes this wound he has worse, so that Ephraim's had this weird, like, heat in the dark in his hand wound, and I don't remember where he gets that from, and they aren't here on the call anymore, so I don't know. Andy will have to explain where that came from, or I'll have to finish the season in the next week or two, which I will be doing anyway. I'll remember. But they have that wound, and then that gets worse, but it's worse in that lower realm. Up here, it's not as bad. Back up on Strata 1 or Strata 0 or whatever, it's not as bad. But all the way down near the heat in the dark, really bad. Really bad. And then Ephraim kills Cool Ranch. And what is gestured at, or what is shown in the final moments of the season, is that Alyosha, who had not been killed when he had floated down to the side of Samothrace, comes out and produces. I mean, I guess you'd seen him, right, Hadrian, or did Samothrace like basically said he has his uses or something, right?
Yeah, Alyosha was not present in Hadrian's meeting with Samothrace.
And so we get Alyosha back, and Alyosha picks up Samothrace's hammer and begins to hammer away on a combination of like Samothrace's blood that came out of his body after he was killed with this special sword, and begins to produce these new plants, whoosh clink, etc. Fesha in the chat says, all Cool Ranch said was that Alyosha wasn't confident and it sounded like he was dead. I kill a lot of people. I really do. But I still never kill a nice, good person like Alyosha off screen without being like, and then he's dead. Yeah.
But you did imply it.
Yeah, to be clear, sorry. Earlier I was saying I was referring to Ephraim. I was not, I promise I was not misgendering Andy. Andy is they. I was saying that Ephraim, who uses he, him, was that his wound. Yeah. But yeah, I've never killed a character off screen that I can think of without being like, yeah, they're fucking dead. Yeah. What else? Yes, people want to know about the Adelaide Hella family tree thing. Wanderer V's was like a magical advisor to the Triste family and to the leaders of Tristero. That is where the kind of like familial closeness comes from, but not the there's no like blood relation between Hella and Adelaide. And also Adelaide is just a jerk, you know.
She knows Hella doesn't know. And
yeah. There are not more than one of the gods. The gods are singular because they exist on that other plane, basically. They are the things that can move between the lamina and strata and make them, or they could before. There's only one of them for each thing, which is to say Samarthes is in the sword now, and Malguin was in the... I mean, Malguin was literally at the very bottom layer. Like, that is where he was. All right.
All right.
I'm just looking at the last couple of things here. People in the new archives went south to the last university. I should add a note here that is Pharaoh went west to the mark of the erasure. And y'all went from here into this sword. So good job with that. And here is the monstrous map that is actually in our Roll20. Ugh, what a nightmare. This is a nightmare. Here is the heat in the dark, which blows up everywhere. The star stuff starts to move in, and it walls it off so that there are these like glowing white star arcs all throughout northwestern Hieron. Here's the flood from Lem. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare, and all of that's gone. Like, all of that is just gone at the beginning of spring. Ice Cream Jones says, "Where's Pikachu gone? Play to find out what happens." Agreed.
And this kind of...
And then there's this purple line is to indicate where on the lowest strata, or basically on the lowest strata, where Malguin walked from way over here to way over here and set up the Dark Sun's like forge there. I'm just going to look back at those first questions, and then I'm going to look at that list of NPCs and see if there's anything left.
Okay.
And then we'll be fucking done.
Just
I
lightning
really
round.
can't imagine we missed anything.
What happened? Got it. Where and how were all the main characters? So it is Hela, Lem, Adair, Hadrian, all in the sword. Pharaoh walking to the mark of the erasure. Last time we saw Pharaoh there was a dragon, or there was a shadow, like a shadow of a dragon passing over him. And the rest of the crew, Throndir and Ephraim, went south with a bunch of refugees to the last university. They have the book. That's what happened with them. Heat in the Dark, we've kind of hit that, right? It's the entropy. It is the universe. It is everything closing in. It is a sort of mindless fire that wants to consume everything. It wants to the way when I drop an apple, it wants to fall, right? So I think that is the heat. That is the heat in the dark. There's no secret. There's no second. I'm not holding anything back about the heat in the dark. Is I think I can 100% say, like, I don't have a secret about the heat in the dark that I've written down that is like, then they're going to find out the truth about the heat. No, the heat in the dark is what there was before there was Hieron. There was nothing else before there was Hieron. Hieron was the first thing that existed in this universe, in this fictional world. It is Samol and Hieron, are the same thing. And it physically is collapsing in on Hieron as Samol ages, and as Samol gives up on life, effectively. Star stuff, I think we addressed basically, right? Samot
Created by Samot, yeah.
Cool.
To build a new world, but that world does not include people.
That world does not include... Well, so there's... If Samot had finished the stars, maybe that world could have included people, or if Samot had been able to educate people about this and convince them that it was cool, that like at least something would survive, then they would at least know about it. Neither of those two things happened. We talked about Elliot's curse. We talked about where Ordena came from. We talked about Samathes, basically. And then, I guess the stakes for spring are the stakes for spring. The world is ending. The Yogg is coming, right? There are a number of people who think they have solutions. Arel wants to put people in bubbles, and that will give them some extra amount of time to try to devise a solution. Those bubbles are solitary confinement, but also the Matrix. They're worlds that you can fill with your own mind and your own desire and everything you can ever imagine, but also you can never speak to another real person again until you figure out how to get out, or until Arel brings you out. What else? The stars are built to create a new world, but not a world that is life as we know it. And we know that Alyosha is trying to create all these new plants that seem to grow into the purple of the heat and the dark. We've yet to see them on screen besides the very end, so I'm not going to talk about that. But you can imagine that for me, the idea is like, hey, here are people who have ideas for how to survive the heat and the dark, none of them are a simple solution, right? None of them are just like, that's the cure. There's a cost for each of those things. And part of the game is going to be how to minimize those costs, or if you can minimize those costs, and where people decide and where they're at. What else? Those are the big stakes. People are at a sword. Can you get out of that sword? Pharaoh walked into the fucking Mark of the Erasure. What happens there? Those are stakes, obviously, but those are smaller stakes in terms of the time investment, I think, before we answer what's happening in those places. Other stuff. Any other there are no more undead being created. Arel is undead. Arel is the last of the undead. That like the timing on that was also very fun. Arel gets killed, realizes that he is now the undead wizard, which is great. And then moments later, Adelaide gets pulled into the sword, where she is not the Queen of Death. She is not in control of death there, and no one is in control of death anymore on Hieron. Any other stuff? Katie wants to know, Katie says, so wait, Austin, Malthy has walked over to the forge. What's up with that? Yeah, good question. Again, that's a thing that could come up, right? I guess the thing that I've gestured to is he was pinned to the bottom layer of the world, and his divinity was being drawn to kind of cancel out the divinity of the other gods. So he went over there. You tell me why he did that. I don't know. There's definitely a lich situation with Arel. All right, so the last set here. I think we hit all these people, though. We don't really... Oh, here's one important one for Adena is... you know what? No, I think that's the thing that will be answered in play. One of the last things we see is we see Stornross and Sunder together with the sword, with the blade in the dark, with Gerard Shiraz, who is the vicereine of Ordena, who is the, chill leader of Ordena, the one who does not want to invade the world. That's one of the last things we see. Right? So Sunder is there with Stornross and with Gerard.
Sunder, I guess we didn't explain, was one of Phantasmo's students?
I think they were peers more than students.
Okay.
Yeah, they both taught at the university.
Okay. They were going to school at the same time, and then they run into her at the tower.
Right. Correct. At the buoy.
Yep.
No clocks for this season. This isn't a clock season. Clocks don't happen in Hieron. Except for Marielda, obviously. Everybody else, I think we got. Again, I think here's one, is the refugees who went south to the university are a lot of the people on this list who have not come up, right? The goblins and snow elves, Chatterchin and the gnolls, Rosanna and Benjamin, the Weavers and Rosette and Red Jack and the Mothkin. Corsica knew all that. I think that's kind of the big stuff. And the little stuff also. Emmanuel's fine. I would not kill Emmanuel off mic. Weaver King, I don't know. I think Weaver King comes up in play, so wait and see. Play to find out what happens on that one. And Abellis, we didn't see where Abellis went, but we do know that the star stuff is doing fine against the heat and the dark. It's just, the stars can't start making their other world until they kind of get the heat and the dark under control, basically. So, all right. I think we're good.
Do you want to just talk?
Yeah.
So, I guess the first, this is probably going to be this week's episode.
Yeah.
If it doesn't go into the feed this week, it'll definitely be by next Tuesday, because spring is going to officially start. Can we comfortably say this on the 11th?
Let me see. When is that at? Yeah, I think we can say that.
Okay.
I can say that. I can get my parts of those intros and such done, yeah.
I don't want to speak for Jack, so.
Right.
But I think the 11th is going to be enough.
Anything else we want to say? I guess we'll use this as an opportunity to say, like, broadly, I think this is going to be a heavy season. I think what we've already recorded has had lots of joy in it and lots of goofiness in it, but has also been very serious at moments. This is going to be a season that we confront loss and death very closely, and I don't mean that in terms of, like, the characters might die. I mean, it's a season it's a show that has been peripherally at least about death, and about big picture failure and death, right? Big picture, the death of many, many people. I've talked about the heat in the dark as cancer or as global warming. And so it's like those things are going to come up a lot. And it can be weird to be like, oh, content warning for existential dread. But like, I think we're going to get near that. I don't know that I want to be clear. I'm not going into it like, can't wait to fuck everybody up. And I'm excited to see, what I'm excited for is to see people face that and be like, and this is why we're living. And this is what I care about in the face of all of that. So far, a lot of what we've recorded, and I think this is especially true for like, Throndir, you can speak to this, has been about like finding community in the face of rough situations, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to do our best for that stuff. And I guess I'll use this opportunity again as just a general content warning. Like, the game will continue to be violent. It's been weird going back to listening to Winter, because coming from Twilight Mirage, which had violence in it 100%, but was mostly super stylized violence, and violence even post the halfway point of Twilight Mirage, where we started getting a little more cinematic and like choreographed with the violence that showed up. It still was always very abstract and very like, it wasn't a bloody show, right? But Hieron gets there. Hieron has some fucking shit in it, and I think it's appropriate for the tone of that show. And so heads up for violence again on that stuff. Are there any other content warnings we should note really quick?
I just want to say the first couple of episodes, especially just because of the system, but also probably going forward, there's more like animal violence, animal resource sort of stuff. I think
that'll probably be contained in those first few episodes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can say I'm happy to say that like the opening stuff with Throndir and Ephraim is them trying to establish the university as a community, and based on the game that we play for that, there's a rule for animal slaughter, which we don't linger on or we don't describe in any detail, but that is a question that does come up for sure.
Yeah. Just be prepared for animals to be talked and that sort of.
Yeah, exactly. In that way, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Any other big stuff? Kodiak is fine. I'm 100% happy to spoil that Kodiak is fine. We're not making the show where you eat Kodiak ever in my fucking life. Are you kidding me? I'd quit the show first.
If anyone ever like even suggested
joked
that
it.
Joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's impossible to say. We've recorded 1% of the really realistic.
No, I feel very confident saying we're never going to eat my dog.
No, that's not what I meant. The larger discussion.
Yeah.
It's honestly so much more likely that we would eat another player character. That's the wild thing. Like,
yeah, 100%.
I could see that situation coming up way quicker than eating Kodiak.
Pharaoh could like turn into like a really delicious cow, you know, like
a huge cow too, and then we just need like a leg or something.
You don't even need the whole animal at that point.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna end up
butt.
eating anyone really. I don't really think that kind of granular resource management is what we're about.
Never say never.
Well,
Wait,
play to find out what happens.
Pharaoh's cow butt? Is that what you said?
No.
Leg.
Okay.
Play to find out what happens next.
That's it. That's it. All right. Unless there's any other questions here, I think we've explained all the stuff that has been explained, right? In some way.
Yeah.
I'm so worried that I'm forgetting a big one. I'm so worried.
It honestly doesn't matter.
It does.
If we remember it, we'll explain it when it comes up in the show.
We'll drop it in right here, right?
Yeah.
Boom.
This is us explaining all of the things we expect to come up in the show in the next year. If we missed it, we'll talk about it.
God. All right. Well, remember, if you have questions, you can send them to, I guess this should actually be just general questions, friends@thetable@gmail.com. But if you have questions that you want to have us answer on a tips episode, tipsathetable@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support the show, friends@thetable.cash. One more time, I want to note that you can go buy any song on the soundtrack at notquitereal.bandcamp.com. Whew.
One other note-keeping thing while we're talking
Please.
to a majority of our audience, our Shuck show is going to be Saturday from 2:30 to 4:30 in their main hall. So
Yeah.
see you there.
I might. There's a there has increased to be a chance that I'll be coming straight off a plane to it. So that's good.
Is it too late to say no?
Yeah. It's fine.
Is this
We'll
the
be fine.
point that it's too late?
Oh yeah, they printed stuff.
We picked I think a good game for
An emergency
even
situation.
coming off of a plane into stuff.
I hope so.
Yeah.
We should say what that game is. Do you want to say what that game is? That's a fun thing to say.
Sure, yeah.
We are going to be playing another game. So in the last 3 episodes of the podcast, you have listened to us play Ross Kalman's Fall of Magic. And so we are going to be playing Ross Kalman's BFF. It's not just Ross Kalman, actually. It's fun. It's actually Ross Kalman, and I think Terry Kalman is the Terry Colleen, who is Ross's mom, which is the cutest thing. They made a version of BFF, or a version of not a version of Fall of Magic, but a game with like some similar rules, just about being like teenage girls hanging out in a town. That seems to be sick. And so we're going to play that at Shucks, which is super exciting.
Yeah. Again, this is going to be on Shut Up and Sit Down's YouTube at some point.
Yeah, totally.
As soon as I have that link, it'll be on the Friends of the Table Twitter account.
Absolutely. So I'm super excited about that. This seems like a dope game. Y'all did a test run of it and seemed like you had some fun with it. So I'm excited to have fun with it too. All right. That's going to do it for us. We should time.is.
Oh, right. That website.
Yeah.
God, I did not realize how late it was.
Yeah,
Holy
dog.
crap.
Yeah,
We did a full episode.
10
5
seconds.
after.
Let's do 10. I was on the
It's
10, but the
fine.
back half for sure.
I think I was a little late too. Yeah.
I'm only using the front claps because 2 people left it.
fair. All right, bye internet. Thank you for hanging.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.